All right. I believe this means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sorts and sizes and persuasions, welcome to another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell with a frog in my throat, the AKA Some Gadget Guy. Juan Bagnell, Some Gadget Guy. You've never seen them show up at a party at the same time together because they're the same guy. Whoa. But that SGG, Some Gadget Guy, it's the SGG of this terribly named podcast series where we like to focus on the QA part of the show, which obviously stands for question and answer. And never is that more important that when we get back on track, and I like to make the last Monday of every month more of what I call the pajama podcast, but really more about just a free flow, less structured show. We let the chat take the wheel. Wherever you want to go, wherever you want to chat, that's where we're going to chat, because the chat is going to chat the chat, and I'm going to follow the chat, chatting that chat. That was some terrible riffing off the top of I'm way off my normal spiel. Hey, everybody, I hope you had a lovely weekend. This whole last week, we had family in town. My folks were coming to visit, and it was really nice because it wasn't like they had a reason to visit. We just spent an entire week hanging out, took a drive up to Santa Barbara, got to go to a museum, went to a gardens. Like, it was just lovely. I did not publish as much stuff as I'd wanted to. I was like working like crazy to get ahead of getting a little downtime. And I still got some stuff out. And I have an exciting announcement that we'll talk about sort of mid-show as we're moving between various topics. But it was really just nice to, I want to say unplug, but it's not really unplugging because I'm still like tapped in 24/7. But it was nice just to take a little pressure off the normal production routine. How about that? We could say that. But I'm already seeing a great list of names here in the chat. We got Mountain Dew Lou, frog in your throat, ribbit. We got Jimmy Fire Dragon wishing everybody a happy Monday and hoping that we're staying hydrated. We've got Ron GKP saying hello. We got John Gao wishing everybody happy Monday. Team Fry, what's up, Team Fry? Oh man, it's been a while. Hope everyone's good. Juan, I saw that you got the new Maxwell ANCs. I still have to finish my coverage, but how are you liking them so far? If we want to start with some headphone chat, you can let me know, because I've got a couple. I always bring a couple topics. Like, the title of this is about how AI sucks, and we can also talk about Samsung, because apparently they announced something. I don't know who even keeps track of that second-rate brand, but we could talk about that too. Got Command Control Device saying, hey. Got Majestic Moose. Hey, everyone. Great to be here again. Georgie. Hey, Juan. Happy to see the upgrade of your book. I'm super stoked about that. It was such a huge rewrite. We've got WX Romer saying, hello, all. We got Sue Lynn making fun of me because the podcast might be getting a sponsor soon. So I'm going to try something mid-show. Fair warning. I'm going to try something mid-show. It's probably not going to work with all of the audio problems I've had with this stream, but we're going to give it a shot. We're going to see if maybe I can figure out how to bake some more advertisements into this podcast. And Simon says, Hypno, wishing everyone a hello and happy Monday. We got it. I don't recognize his name. Ricardo Velasquez Perales 9090 saying saludos. MPW1. What is up, my friend? Good to see you in the chat, man. It's been too long. We should chat sometime. You can hit me up in the DMs or something. Yes, I hope everybody had a lovely weekend. I think we can just jump straight into a little housekeeping because I didn't get a lot published. So this is the funny thing is, like, complained isn't the right word, but I've kind of described what it's like when you get a sponsored video and you're on their timetable and it's just a calamity. It's almost always a calamity, and they have these like deadlines, but then they take too long to give you feedback, but they still expect that you're going to rush to meet the deadline, and then they ship you something and then it doesn't arrive. And the whole time I'm still trying to figure out where in my calendar other videos, other editorials, other reviews are going to go. And so the week before last week, I only got 2 videos out, but the week before that, I was publishing something almost every day. And it was like everything lines up and I can finally release these videos and I've had these other videos ready to go. Let's just publish. And I even published 2 videos in one day. So it's just so difficult to time and juggle, manage the calendar, and then also find some time to do something like use the products, write scripts, shoot the videos, edit the videos. Like the whole goal is eventually to bring on a production assistant. And we're still a little ways away from that goal being feasible. Oh, we got Cedric Owen saying, "What up, peeps? How's it going, Cedric?" John Gow, get that bag, y'all. Dollar sign, dollar sign. Yeah, that is accurate, John Gow. Like, I don't know. I'm like a $2 to $3 kind of guy these days. So, get this out of the way here. Hope you all had a lovely weekend. Let's cover what I did get published. Hopefully, set up my screen share. There it goes. So I was really stoked to get a chance to play with these guys. These are the Halliday G2 smart glasses. Go with the meeting flow, because you see it's a pun, you see, because go with the flow is a saying. Like, hey, you just want to ride with it. But their new product for the glasses, the software side of this, is something they call meeting flow. So what I did is I put meeting in parentheses. So it's go with the flow. Go with the meeting flow. See, that's for all you hip kids out there who want some tips and tricks on how to do the YouTubes. That's how you get the YouTubes done. But Halliday, I got a chance. Man, was this like 2 CESs ago? I went hands on with their very first generation prototype, which had a little projector system that would literally shoot information into your eye. Their heads up display glasses. It's a simple HUD. Unfortunately, I think almost every single one of these companies is getting it wrong, where they're focusing almost exclusively on this is a way to inject AI in your face. And I feel like we've let the idea of Google Glass lapse for so long that bringing it back now at a time where AI really isn't super popular with people. And the other examples that people have of these glasses are things like Meta with cameras. So I actually have a little video shot. We finished up this project with Halliday. I actually have another video shot saying I might not be able to wear smart glasses anymore because there's no way to reassure people that I don't have creepy pervy glasses from Facebook, right? So they're ruining it for everybody, and we really haven't built the social etiquette of putting a heads up display on your face. And that makes me really sad because this has been a process that I've been desperate to see evolve over the last 13 years. So Halliday, their glasses are not camera. There are no not camera glasses. There are no cameras. Talking is real hard today. No cameras, but there are mics, but it's a visual platform just to get information, simple bits of information up at eye level. And they've switched from that projector system to some more traditional waveguides. Pros and cons there. I didn't really go too hard because I actually kind of liked the projector system better if we're talking about something more discrete. But the waveguides are way easier to just put on your face and see something projected out. So I have a full rundown, sort of a first look at what they're trying to do, and their new AI system is interesting. I don't know, it's something that I'll use a whole lot. But if you're constantly in meetings and you want kind of a good organization system for how the meeting is like summarized, or if there are action items that people need to work on, it's at least an interesting progression over some of the little AI tools that we've seen in the past. So it's pretty great. Moving right along. I'm not going to go too hard on this because this is going to be our test for a mid-show ad break. This is the video that I just put out. Take better photos. Smartphone photography for noobs. 10th anniversary update. So I finished the book and it was published on Kindle 2 weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago. Hold on, I'm gonna take a little drink of coffee. I'm just weirdly claggy today. Hold on one sec. Oh, Cedric Owens going out to share the stream, and Mobile Dom. What is up? Mobile Dom saying, ahoy, hoy, Juan and friends. What is up, buddy? He's like my blue. It's like one of the few people I go out of my way to interact with on Blue Sky, just because I love Dom. Dom's one of my faves. So, sorry. Short story, incredibly long, and we're going to talk about this later. But the behind the scenes, I've only consistently published the book on Amazon Kindle. And I hate that I am in that position. Maybe it's a little light hypocrisy, but I kind of want it on a proper bookstore where there is some kind of copy protection for the work I've put into the book. And I understand why that's a problem. And it always killed me because Amazon's system really wasn't great, because I tried to find other opportunities or other resources where I could give the book to libraries, things like that. You don't want to read the book. I mean, you don't want to pay for the book. I totally understand. Here's a resource. And it was really difficult finding that. So I eventually started shopping around about 2 years ago just to see, and I tried a couple other services that claim they could put your book on other storefronts. And as I would dig into them, it was like, oh, and we're going to take this much of the book sales. And you're like, you're not doing much. How about, is there any way I could pay up front? And there really wasn't. So it was like, we'll permanently always take a cut of all of your work in perpetuity for this one action of just helping you get it on a bookstore that maybe 100 people use. So I couldn't do that. My dad got a Kobo, my daughter got a Kobo, and I saw that they had a program for self-publishing. So I sent the book over to the folks at Kobo, and 2 weeks ago we talked about this. It got denied. It was rejected. And I felt really bad. Like, I can't tell you how demoralizing that was, to not only have been putting in so much work on the book, but then also this most recent update was a massive rewrite. I'm really trying to lean more into the education. It starts super basic. The book literally has now a new paragraph where the act of pull phone from pocket, push shutter button, touch nothing else on your phone screen, and put phone back in pocket has its own dedicated chapter. That's where I start. And by the end of the book, I'm doing all the algebra to show you what the crop factor is, so that you can calculate the not only the focal lengths, but also the equivalent aperture. If you want your photo to look like it's coming from a full frame camera and you've got this kind of phone camera sensor, then you can do this, blah, 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 blah. And I'm detailing how you do the math. That's the spectrum of where the book goes now. You can keep it as simple as you want and just look at composition, or you can get deep into the tech of what these little mini phone cameras represent. So they have an email. They don't even have like a proper appeals process. There is a mention like, hey, if you have any other questions, please contact us at this email address. And like, I just got to know, like, was there something about the book? Did something flag? The only message was like, we no longer approve this kind of content. And then when you click on the link for more information, it says like, information that is easily found online. And you're like, yeah, I get that. But the point is, the book is trying to help people not search multiple websites for like, top 10 tips for sexier selfies. Like it's supposed to be a little more of an all-in-one resource than that for newbie photographers. And so I send them out an email. I don't really expect much. 2 days later, I get a reply, and he's like, oh, we can have a little more information on what like the history of the book has been. I was like, it's been around for 10 years. It was used at Georgetown University as an additional resource for one of their intro photography classes. One of the professors there really loved like, hey, you already have cameras on your phones. You can start learning about photography with the cameras on your phones. And look, this D-bag wrote a book about it. And he would share my book with members, with students at Georgetown. And you're like, just whittling away. And it took like 2 or 3 emails back and forth. And you're like, okay, we'll take another look at this. And then I get an email like the next day, you've been approved. So short story, incredibly long. The book is now on Kindle and on Kobo. And with it being on Kobo, I actually have a better pipe to put the book through to Overdrive. So again, I'm hoping that people will maybe want to see this ebook at their local library, and we can kind of sort it out that way. So, you'll get the full scoop on that again later in the podcast. Oh, everyone say hey to my Aunt Kathy. Hi there. I'm sure it was great to have your parents visit. It's always nice when they're able to stop by, but it was really nice just getting to spend some casual time too. Like one night we just had a Tetris tournament. It was great. I loved it. Stuff like that is just really sweet. And my daughter and my mom had some good quality. They went shopping together. They got mani-pedis. It was really nice. It was really sweet. So, get that out of the way there. That's housekeeping in a nutshell. So, we have one comment on the chat already. We can run down some AI news. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 AI stories that all kind of go hand in hand about how AI is too expensive to properly deploy. Companies are spending ridiculous amounts of money on it, and how it's never really going to be a viable business model. And we can pack those 4 stories together. Or we already had a request from Team Vive. We want to talk about fancy headphones, specifically of the active noise canceling variety. Is there a request from the chat? Would you like to cover some AI news, or would you like to talk about fancy headphones, ANC headphones, or even what some might consider obscenely expensive mixing headphones that I love, even though they're not exactly my favorite style of tuning, that they are still really good, and not just because they're really expensive. Oh, Bionic Scoop saying, "What? I just ordered my Pebble Time 2." Okay, so real quick, just as we get votes on whether or not we're doing headphones or AI. Bionic Scoop, since I've gotten mine has been running great. But I am seeing numerous complaints about the screen being a little fragile. So I would look at trying to get some kind of simple screen protector, even if you have to cut your own like TPU screen protector. And also, a couple of people are saying like this thing is really not waterproof. So be really careful with it if you want to like take it swimming or something like that. So mine has been great. It's still going strong. I think I'm on my 3rd battery charge. Maybe no, my 4th. I'm on my 4th battery charge since getting it. It's still a champ. It's still going strong. I've just been switching back and forth between that and my OnePlus watch. Still love my Pebble, but it does seem like some people out there who are using theirs a little more aggressively than I use mine, just walking around the neighborhood, have been having some issues. So it looks like people want to do headphones. We got Al Zombino talking headphones. Suolin just, can't we cover everything? Just make it a 3-hour podcast. John Gow says we should get painful news out of the way first, but I think he's getting downvoted. Not downvoted. I think people are voting past him. Mobile Dom headphones. I've been editing an AI video series all day. I love my planar magnetic hi-fi mans. I need a new sound card desktop DAC. Ron GKP saying headphones. JGJ, are there sapphire screen protectors for the Pebble Time 2? No, there aren't. I've been looking around. I even just a really good glass screen protector would be tricky because the frame around this doesn't seat the screen in. There's like no like upper bezel to match. So if you put glass on top of this, I would worry that the edge of the glass sticking out might actually cause more catches. Like as you're like reaching into a pocket or you scrape your watch against like a door frame, things like that, it might actually make that easier to nick and impact the screen. Oh, and Bionic Scoop is someone who doesn't swim. I think I'm okay. I think you'll be fine. But again, that's the word on the street that Pebble Time 2 is great, but maybe it's not as durable as we expect modern fitness watches to be. And BW1 saying, I do have the Fold 8 Ultra if we have any questions. So I'm definitely saying we've got to talk Samsung maybe in the second half of the podcast, but we'll definitely lean on BW1, his experiences there, if we have specific questions there. I'm going to go off the Samsung sort of press announcement because I can't stand anything the company does. I'm never gonna get invited to a Samsung Impact ever again. Maybe if someone pays me to go to cover the event for them, I could maybe try to be a bit more objective. But almost everything that sucks in tech right now, a good chunk of it is Samsung's fault. So I can't be objective on my own podcast. I just got a couple comments here. Team Vry saying recently switched to Garmin. I would also highly recommend Garmin if you want something more durable. Command control device, still rocking my earphone. For 2 years now, I'm noticing that on initial start of music, there is a bigger delay. So maybe next year I'll upgrade to new true wireless buds. If you've got 2 years on true wireless earbud batteries, especially from a good budget brand like Earfun, that is very good. If you're regularly using true wireless, I don't expect more than 2 years. Those batteries just start burning themselves out. Anything past 2 years, consider yourself lucky. That's gravy. But you're probably going to want to start shopping a replacement. Not 2 years immediately buy, but at 2 years, see how your earbuds are doing and then consider it might be time. So, Majestic Moose, I certainly have thoughts about the Z Fold 8. The fat and weird one. It's not fat and weird. I love where is it? Right there, right above my head, the composition notebook. It's in the depth of field. I love my Surface Duos still. That form factor, I think, is eminently superior for most average consumers' needs. But I get, if you're familiar with the taller, skinnier form factor of the Z Fold, that's kind of a thing. From Mobile Dom, the last 6 months, I've genuinely considered spinning up a blog again and hitting up my old PR friends because I want to play with new phones again. You should do it, man. Like, don't put so much pressure on that you've got to execute, but like, think about every single time we have a thought and it's kind of a fun thought we want to share and we take it to social media and we punch out maybe like a multi-tweet or a Mastodon post or a Blue Sky post and it gets like a couple likes and you're like, it's already disposable. The social media algorithms have already discarded my work in providing them content. So spin up a blog. And then at least there's some other avenue for sharing that thought, but then also that thought being rediscoverable. There's so many articles that I've written years ago that are like not relevant today, but then I'll be going through my blog and just like for some reason this got a spike of what the most recent one was the OnePlus 7 Pro. So with OnePlus, obviously with OnePlus announcing they were going to be leaving operations in most areas around the world, some of my OnePlus articles and videos have gotten a bit more traffic, but the one that spiked was for the OnePlus 7 Pro, where all the nerds were complaining about the telephoto camera and trying to claim that OnePlus was lying about the telephoto camera specs that were delivered. Well, it's not really because their sensor is different than what they're saying, and that means that OnePlus is settling, and it's not a flagship killer. And I'm so over people who know goose egg about photography because they didn't read my book, Take Better Photos, Smartphone Photography for Noobs, which actually has a chapter breaking down how crop factor works, complaining about stuff. They don't understand, so they just lie. I even had like replies from people like Paul Thoreau when that originally happened. But that article just got a ton of traffic. I don't have any other explanation for it. It's just, it was timely with OnePlus's announcement and people found that article again. So I'm always a big fan of saying, hey, instead of going directly to social media where Facebook and Threads and Instagram and Blue Sky and Twitter only exist to make you feel awful about your work in making their platform more money. Because remember, you're working for them for free. You're putting content on their platform. Instead, take that exact same thought, write up a little blog post, share a link to that blog post, and they're still going to bury it, but at least now, if you drive a little traffic to that website, if you build a little audience outside of their walled garden, it is so much better for you. You have a direct relationship with your readers. You are not completely at the whim of a social media site. So, sorry, I didn't mean to go off on that. Okay, we were going to talk about headphones. So, real quick, like drop some audio driving units in the chat. What kind of earbuds, over ear, are you using? Inner aural earbuds? Are you using earbuds that float or clip in front of the ear? Are you using circumaural cans, the ones that go all the way around the ear? Are you using supraaural headphones that go on the ear? Even if it's something kind of retro, I've been having fun with these. These are the Mondos, and they just look like old school plastic metal headband. The driver literally just like pops right on. I find that after about 2 hours, this setup is a little uncomfortable. And it was funny because I was thinking like, man, I used to have a knockoff of the Sony Walkman. Everyone my age had like a CD player or a cassette tape player at some point, and I had headphones that were almost exactly like these that were even probably a little heavier. Why are these so uncomfortable at 2 hours? There is no audio delivery system from the late 80s or early 90s that could power audio for more than 2 hours. If it was a CD player, you would still have to take the CD out. And you might not think about it, but your ears were taking a break in the short amount of time that you would pop the CD out or have to replace batteries. If it was a cassette tape player, you'd have to flip the cassette tape at least. And often in those transitions, you would do something like, oh, let me just take these off for a second, kind of rub my ears, flip the cassette tape. Oh, is something happening? Do I need to react to something? Am I getting off a bus right now? Okay, now I can put them back on and go about my day. The idea that I could wear these all day for 2 days straight with the battery life on them. The retro part of that design actually doesn't work. It's fun, it's kitschy. If you're the kind of person who only wears headphones for like an episode of a sitcom, then retro works really well. But if you're trying to go all day, I don't know that these work anymore. So, okay, sorry. Wes Easton on Facebook. What's up, Wes? I hope you're doing well. Give me the orange headphone monsters. Give them now. Jimmy Fire Dragon saying, I've been loving my XM6 over ears. I think you can always do well with a pair of Sony XMs. If you want the best active noise canceling travel headphone solution, I think Sony's it. I know there are personal preferences, and Bose is really good in that space too. I know a lot of people like their AirPods Max, but they're wrong. They're objectively incorrect. I think Sony is the best of all compromises in how you get to a beautiful, lightweight, clean, excellent active noise canceling platform. But you got to tune them out of the box. They sound pretty garbage. Give it a little nudge in the frequencies you like, maybe a bit more of a bass shelf. I needed a little nudge up in the mids. I actually kind of had to roll off the highs just a little. I have this really funky shape to my EQ tuning, and I love them now. But I did not like them out of the box, that's frustrating when you get a very expensive headphone, and then you gotta finagle it a bit. Georgie saying about headphones, always happy to watch videos with new model headphones. No matter, I'm still rocking the WH-1000XM3 and the Jabra Elite 75 Active. So I like older Sonys better than I like newer Sonys. I think the XM6 have better and more natural noise canceling, but the XM4 just sound better with less manipulation to me. So I totally vibe with that. JGJ status audio between 3. I'm expecting a package with the Basis MC2 clip-on buds. Status audio. Where are my status? I am a huge fan of Status. So right now in my, oh no, I put them in my other bag. I don't have them in front of me. I can't use them as a prop. Oh gosh. So right now, I think the two best sounding, not they're the best overall. You might like techier features, you might like better microphones for calling, you might like, multi-point connections with Apple products, blah 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 blah. But if we're talking outright audio quality, I think the two best true wireless are the Status, the new Status Pro X, and the Edifier planar magnetic earbuds. Those two true wireless, wholly unique sound. They don't sound like anything else. They definitely don't sound like each other, but they don't sound like anything else I've ever heard. And they're both in that kind of $200 to $250 price range. So we're not talking impulse buy. Oh, this is a great bang for buck. No, these are expensive earbuds, but I love the multi drivers on the Status, and I love that planar magnetic on the Edifier. So I'm a big fan. In fact, our buddy El Jefe Reviews published a great breakdown on the new Status, which are tuned by that Mr. Golden Ear guy who's regularly contributing to the headphones.com reviews. Apparently, this kid can actually hear above 20K. And I believe their tests where they do some blind taste testing and he's able to pick out like nuances in DACs that I don't think I could ever approach or simulate the same kind of response. I don't know if it's true, but he did a partnership with Status to tune a special version of their newest earbud, and I'm getting antsy. I think I need to try them. Oh, Mobile Dom. I love Mi Audio. My main three are my Mi Audio M6 Pro IEMs when I'm editing. I have my Hi-Fi Man Edition XS open back planers for fun stuff, and I have a 3D printed set of headphones from Hedamame up in Canada. I don't know Hedamame. I'm going to look them up. That's just an adorable name. But yeah, the Mi Audio Pro in-ear monitors are solid. And if you can get your ear scanned, Mi Audio does incredible custom molded ear tips. Not cheap. You're talking, I think, $150 for an ear tip on their IEM. But you get those pro earbuds that are molded to the entire outer pinna bowl of your ear. And then you just go, and like they fit perfectly, and you can wear them for days because they are custom molded to your ear. Oh, it's just so beautiful. I love them so much. Oh, Alzambino Meze 99 Neo. Excellent headphone, especially if you want something a little darker, a little richer. It's like a weighted heated blanket of a headphone. Like it is snuggly and soft, and I should say it's like one of the lightest wearing headphones that you can put on your skull. But the my daughter, because she doesn't like what I listen to, and that makes a lot of sense. My old busted ears, and I like little presence peaks. I like a bump in the 2 to 3K region. I don't like a lot of sparkle at the high end, but I even dig headphones like the Bear Dynamic 770s, which have a ridiculous presence peak in the upper EQ. Like when they get bright, they get shrill. She doesn't like that because she has fresh, young, new ears, and we've worked really hard to protect her hearing as a kid. So we put her headphones in, and it's like, this is too high pitched. I don't like it. And she's like wincing. And then we put the Meze 99 Neo on her, and she's like, oh, the headphones are so comfortable. And I like how, the bass really comes in. You're like, yeah, 9-year-old, get it. So now whenever we don't do them as often, but especially for like during lockdown, we were doing that a lot. But whenever we get together and just kind of listen to some music, she breaks out the Meze 99s. It is so much fun to share that with her. Oh, BW1, man, it's wild. He says, I think it's crazy people are listening to any audio in their ear longer than maybe an hour without a break. It just seems unhealthy. So we got into a conversation on the Discord with who was it? I don't know that I can find it right away. we might just, I might just let that go. Oh, I think it was Aditya. Sorry, I'm spacing. Sorry. But a part of that conversation, we were talking about how you start listening to some audio and then you realize, like, oh, this doesn't sound as good. Let me turn it up. And then there are some people, and Aditya was in this spot where he would turn it up. He'd be listening to this. It sounds really good, but he couldn't listen for very long because it was just too loud and it was starting to hurt his ear. And I don't think people this is my hypothesis. And there really isn't good data or good study to support my casual assessment feeling of what's happening. But there is the structure in the ear. There is this protection mechanism called threshold shift. And your ear, while experiencing really loud sounds, will numb itself to save you the discomfort of hearing something really loud. You've maybe experienced that. You walk out of a club, it was a really loud club, and your ears are a little dull. Everything sounds a bit muffled, or there's a whine or a hiss or a hum, kind of almost tinnitus style. That's an example of threshold shift. We started studying threshold shift for work. OSHA, what is the safe volume listening limit? And they say it's like 80 decibels for an 8-hour workday. But at the end of that 8-hour workday, without hearing protection, your ears would be totally numbed out from this threshold shift. It's just, if you can then take a day off, your ears should recover and they should come back to the threshold that you were able to hear at before. It is my unstudied, no data backed hypothesis that threshold shift can happen at much, much lower volume, much lower intensity, but over longer periods of exposure. So we don't have a lot of good studies to support my my wild guess here. But I believe you listen to music for 2 to 3 hours on headphones or earbuds, some form of threshold shift is starting to happen where your ear doesn't completely numb and fuzz out, but the articulation, the sensitivity of the ear is minorly reduced over that longer listening session. So then you get into that bad spiral of, by the end of the day, you're turning the volume up, turning the volume up. And the way that you can test this for yourself is if you regularly listen on headphones and earbuds and you find that you don't give yourself a lot of breaks while you're listening over longer stretches. I want you to listen, keep turning it up. Like if you find, like, by the end of the day, you've clicked it up a couple clicks and you're like, oh, I really like, oh, that sounds better. Or, ooh, now the bass is coming in fuller. But then try to go an entire evening all through bed, not listening to anything. And it can be really difficult. I'm definitely guilty of this, where I'll have, like a bone conduction headset on or something like that. But try to go an entire dinner time to bedtime to the next morning, no sound. And then with your headphones at the same volume that you left them at the day before, put your headphones back on and see if that's uncomfortably loud. You might be experiencing some form of threshold shift, and that means you've got to kind of retrain your behavior to not turn your headphones up. Make sure you're taking longer breaks throughout your day. I think it's something we don't do a good job of studying. It's only in the last 20 years that we've really done any work in this space scientifically to track age-related hearing loss. And I feel most age-related hearing loss is really environmental. It's not that your body wears out, it's that you just keep hitting your ears with unhealthy amounts of noise. We don't do a good job of, like, explaining to people that, even when you're walking down the street and sirens are going by, it's okay to just put a finger up on your ear and just block that against, a sudden burst of loud sound exposure. So anyway, I can ramble about that a lot. But when I look at, so BW1, when I look at people's listening habits, or someone's like, hey, I work in this really busy office, and you have your headphones on for the entire workday, it is very concerning to me. I feel like that's really dangerous. WX Romer, Aftershocks and Trex Aeropex bone conduction for years. I don't like anything in my ears. I think that's, well, first of all, I'm just a huge fan of shocks. I also like H2O audio if you want something that's a bit more ruggedly built for like triathletes. But bone conduction is still like science fiction. Every time I put a bone conduction headset on someone's ears, it's like, again, it's just like, you had no idea this technology existed, and now I just launched you 5 years into the future from where you were. I still feel like there's going to be the debate between something like a clip, where the driver is in front of the ear, and bone conduction, where the clip definitely delivers better sound quality, but I think bone conduction is safer for longer listening sessions. And also, I think it's just easier to make a good wrap around the back of your head bone conduction headset for athletics. When I'm using clips, they do not stay seated. And I could be in the middle of a workout. I could be working with my daughter, just doing some softball. I can try and jog with my wife, and just the clips per ear will wiggle out of alignment pretty regularly. And then I slap some bone conduction on, and those things stay put. Oh, Wes, I'm missing you too, buddy. At some point, again, just with, because I know I'm sure you're busy and stuff, but I'd love to know how the documentary has been going. Because Wes Easton, who's missing me on Facebook right now, Wes Easton produced, directed, edited. It wasn't a one-man show, but like put together an incredible documentary on comic book shops, kind of talking about the history of the comic book shop and how it became a more important cultural force, and how it even influenced the publishing of not just, mainstream titles, but like gave rise to the indie comic scene that we enjoy today. Searching for Superman. I don't know what stores are on it. Please leave a comment in the chat so that people can find it. But we have an interview too on my YouTube channel. But really, instead of just listening to me yap on about how cool I think Wes is, you could just go watch his documentary, and it's pretty rad. It is really, really cool. Jimmy Fire Dragon saying, I went off of in-ears quite a while ago. I still prefer having the in-ear monitor super deep nozzle. It's like, it feels like you're drilling into your skull. I love that real deep seat as it's getting closer to the first bend in your ear canal. The passive noise reduction is incredible. And if you get the right foam and the right shaped tip, I find like that's one of the most comfortable solutions that you can come up with. But unfortunately, because every ear is different, I feel a lot of people try an in-ear. Often it's usually like an AirPod style design, and it doesn't stay put, or they're constantly jamming it into their ear, or it's a shallow seat. I do not like shallow seated ear tips. And I think, unfortunately, too many people have those kind of mediocre experiences and then just go back to an open earbud, and then they turn up their volume too loud. But it's hard trying out enough of those to get into the types and the designs that fit you the best. Unfortunately, there's no way to know. Unless you go all the way to getting your ear scanned and having custom molded tips, you just got to try a bunch of drivers and ear tips until you find a combo that works for you. And I know a lot of people aren't going to take that much time to go through all that. Oh, Majestic Moose, also using Sony XM3s. Love them. Mobile Dom, my favorite Sony cans of all time are the MDR 7506. Which Sonys do I have? Because I do have some studio cans. Dom, you're going to think this is funny. Hold on. So, because I'm so paranoid about always being able to match my studio experiences, I keep a couple of headphones in reserve. And the Sonys that I have in reserve, sorry, I know there's like no video happening right now, but this is what I love about having a wireless mic. So my reserve Sony's still in the box, 7506. Nerd. There were so many studios. So it was Sony 7506s and Bear Dynamics. in the studios that I learned how to cut commercial content. Sorry, I'm trying to scooch my chair back here. In the studios that I tried to learn how to cut studio commercial content, those are the two headphones I listened on the most. And so those two headphones are what I think of as sounding correct when I'm recording commercial audio. Just funny whenever I see someone, because I don't think the 7506 are like I would never choose the 7506 just to like sit and chill with like a bourbon and listen to some music. Even back then, I really appreciated you could go to any studio in I started in New Mexico, but in New Mexico and then into Southern California, and you would always find a pair of 7506. No matter where you went. You could always count on, what does this sound like on a 7506? Can I make it sound good on the 7506 in the mix? Then we're fine. We know it's going to sound good. Oh, Team Fry is using the Status Pro Golden Sound. I'm so behind. I really need to see what these Golden Sound Status Pros can do. I really like Status in general, and I'm curious what the tuning is going to be from Mr. Golden Sound. I don't know his actual name. I don't know if I'm being like cheeky or anything like that. I'm not trying to like besmirch his channel or anything like that. It's just I've only ever seen him referenced as Golden Sound, so I know he's got golden ears, so I just keep calling him that. And West East and the Edifier are mostly sold out on Amazon. So I got a pair of their speakers, and I do want to do a video on those. They have a pair of planar wireless headphones that I don't think I can dig out in my ridiculous shelf right now. And then their Edifier planar earbuds are only ever made in very small batches. And it's a shame because so I did their cans. They make just a gorgeous planar magnetic wireless headphone. And immediately you know you're going to get critical comments on a video like that because it's an expensive headphone and it doesn't have active noise canceling. And you're like, okay, I get it. But there's a reason why you would want to own these. And these are starting to approach what could be end game audio for someone. I think they're like $500. That is not a casual purchase. And no one in their right mind would say, hey, you've got, $20 ear pods from Apple for your iPhone. You know what you should buy next are the $500 wireless planar magnetics. Like that jump, anyone who would ever recommend that jump is a hack and a shill. But if you've listened to a couple of headphones, oh, I like this articulation, I like this color, I like this tuning, I want to be able to, sort of adjust the sound or EQ the sound. This is a solution that I think I could live with for a long time. This could be a headphone that someone rides the next like 10 years of their listening and is happy with just the sound quality, the experience. The battery might be a problem because it's wireless, but still, that could be the solution. But no, it's a $500 headphone that doesn't even have noise canceling. And it's just like we keep sort of missing the point. There's a person who wants a mid-priced headphone to be their one and only solution for every single possible audio experience they could encounter. And there's someone like me who appreciates having I like having a pair of earbuds, a cabled open back headphone, and a closed back wireless headphone. Like if I can get those three, I can cover 95% of the things that I like to listen to. And then I have maybe a little window for some novelty outside of that. And I really feel more people should be taught yeah, you got the AirPods Max and you like the AirPods Max, but maybe don't use the AirPods Max when it's 105 degrees outside in Southern California and you're doing your workout. I don't think that's the right headphone, man. I don't think that's the right solution. So anyway, sorry. On these kinds of the PJ pods, I'm really good at rambling for a long period of time. Simon says, Hypno, I'm tempted by the golden sound but after El Jefe's review, but found the between 3 ANC a bit uncomfortable. So I don't know that that's going to change a lot for you on the Pro X or the Golden Sound Edition. They're very similar, but the trick that not the tricky thing. The issue is really they're less customizable. Between 3 had these different flanges that could help you seat the earbud on the outer ear, and the new Pro X don't have that. So it's all ear tip. So if the between 3 were uncomfortable and you tried adjusting them, then the Pro X are probably going to be just as or worse in terms of fit and comfort for your ears. Moving right along. Yeah. El Jefe jumping in the chat too. I guess his ears were burning because we were saying nice things about you. I remember that conversation, and it can take days to recover from that shift. That's a good experiment to try. I like tinkering with my brain. I like tinkering with my ears. I like running these experiments. As soon as I found out about the concept of infrasound, I immediately went home, set up a synthesis, made a sine wave under 20 hertz and started experimenting with headphones to see if I could feel infrasound. Like, I just can't help myself. I love it. I love doing stuff like that. But I think more people would benefit just from understanding their own usage. So it's maybe not the most fun or novel experiment, but try to handle silence and then see, the volume that I was listening at yesterday, is it uncomfortable for me today? If you give your ears a night off and then come back and like, oh, I've got to turn this down, you were always hurting your ears. But your ears were doing you a kindness in muffling some of the discomfort. So yeah, it's pretty rough. Ron GKP. What? Sorry, you're right. I will speak slower and louder. Sorry, Ron. Cedric Owens, working as a landscaper, I use a FIO UTWS5 2025 ear hooks with the Blonde by Zeos JoJo IEMs attached to them. In the gym, I'm using OP buds. OnePlus buds are really good. And my fun set and my desk headphones are Monoprice, the M570 planers. Those were good. I never got to hold on to them long enough to do a review, but I did get to play with them quite a bit. And those are very fun planers. I adore the experience of planers in general. Obviously, I have one brand that I like very personally because of the way that they've tuned some honk in the upper mid-range on their planers. I love what Odyssey does to tune. But even as Odyssey's kind of softening the edges on the characteristics of their headphones, I kind of dig the style, the aesthetic, the build quality. I'm a big Odyssey fan. But a lot of planers, the Edifier planers are really good. The Hi-Fi-Man planers are really good. And those Monoprice were really underrated. Mobile Dom, I fear we share the same brain cell. Hey man, if you know, you know. Those Sonys, man. People, they are just ubiquitous. And I can't say that because they're the best, but they're just all over the place. Oh, Bradley Larger jumping in to wish everyone a happy Monday. And apparently Golden Ears his actual name is Cameron. So thank you for that, El Jefe. I tune in to some of the headphones.com reviews. I don't always share their sentiment because I come from a background in recording. I appreciate a practical headphone first, and I'm really still pretty new in the space for audiophile headphone as entertainment. So, for example, like Odyssey sent over the MM520. That is a $1,700 headphone. I think it's a better solution than some of their audiophile headphones because it is easier to drive and it is built with an idea of mixing first, entertainment second, but it's really easy to get a fun entertainment use out of that headphone. And depending on what your needs are, if you're spending $1,700 on a pair of headphones, um, it is easier to take that headphone and plug it into any other source. So if you're working on an audio interface, like I've got a Focusrite here, the Focusrite drives that headphone really well. Then I can switch over to a dongle DAC and it drives that headphone really well. I can plug it directly into the headphone jack on my Surface laptop and it drives that headphone pretty well. So there's a bit more flexibility because you don't know what source you're going to connect that headphone to. An audiophile headphone, there's a much higher expectation that you've got your setup planned and you're going to experience that headphone mostly through connecting it to the same chain of gear in a quiet listening space. A mixing headphone doesn't have that same reliability or same consistency, so it's got to sound good on almost anything you plug it into. Those little differences, that's where I appreciate the function of a headphone over the aesthetics or the color, the tone, the tuning. And often the way that I listen, I can adjust. I can dig into the EQ. I can pair it with a different dongle DAC that I know it plays nice with. I'm okay making some of those adjustments. So some of the times I feel like the folks at headphones.com will get too hung up on one very specific aspect of the out of the box tuning, this part of the experience, and that's where they stay. But I'm going to be really curious. I don't know if they've done an MM520 video yet, but they reviewed the MM500 very highly. And I had very good experiences with the MM500, and the MM520 is noticeably different in a number of key areas. So I'm going to be curious to see what their assessment is on a $1,700 mixing headphone. It's so great. I love it. From Robert. Robert Malakov. Microphone performance is under-discussed. Check out the Yay Link BH78, the only set that fit an extremely specific set of requirements. Wireless, over-ear, good ANC with boom mic, and real ENC. It's a dream for a lifestyle headset, but with a deployable boom mic so that calls are extremely clear both ways. So, Robert, I've had a hard time because, like, I can try and do a distinct microphone test, and often, I've kind of backed off on this a little bit because I think sometimes it gives a headphone the wrong impression. But sometimes I'll even record the whole video of my review using the boom mic. So far, I feel like one of the absolute best add-on boom microphones is Meze. So the Meze boom mic, which is compatible with a number of other headphones, but I've used it most with the Meze 105s. That is so much better a microphone than it has any right to be, just in general. And it's a kitschy little add-on boom mic for an inexpensive pair of, nice listening headphones. I don't understand where this boom mic came from, but it's really good. I think it's kind of difficult to set any kind of expectation on that just because of how many variables there are. So I can do like, I can pull these guys out because I feel like for all of my praise of Odyssey, one of the things that and I just dropped a really expensive headphone on the floor from, I don't know, about 6 feet. I'm gonna have to test that later. So Maxwell is one of my favorite gaming headsets. The audio quality is phenomenal. I love all the features. I love the update, the new bass ports, how you control the headphone. The boom mic is adequate. But if I do a whole video using this boom mic, people are going to hear how it's different than my normal mic, and they're going to hear how it's different than the Meze, and they're, well, that's not good enough. But if you're really just using this for something like game chat, it's going to sound better than most other people's audio game chat solutions. And it's tough to get a handle on, like, are you using this in a game? There's a certain expectation, and I feel like the audio quality in game chat is better mostly than the audio that you would have in a phone call, even with voice over data. we've moved voice calls to being a data stream than an old school, not analog, but you know what I mean. So when I do a mic test, it's definitely not a call test. There's no great way to anticipate what the sound of this microphone is going to be on a phone call, given all the permutations and variances in the signal transmission to the tower, how that's sent back down to the other phone. What are they listening on the other phone? Too many of my daughter's friends' parents, I can tell, are always using speakerphone. Like all of those little bits together, I just have a hard time discussing and describing microphone quality on these things in any way that I feel approaches a real world conversation on how this stuff works. But again, to your point, there aren't a ton of options like that. Gaming headsets are super great examples of going premium, and a modern gaming headset could be someone's audiophile starter drug. I have been playing around with these. I just had the old Maxwell 2s. This is the Maxwell 2 ANC, and you can tell because it's got little silver trim on it instead of the gunmetal trim. I still haven't found someone, please, in this chat, and I'm asking earnestly, not like, oh, prove me wrong, bro. No, I really want to know. It's a planar magnetic driver with both a Bluetooth connection and a wireless low latency dongle, closed back, and it has active noise cancellation. I don't think another headphone like that exists. I have not been able to find another planar driver with ANC and that has that dual connection for wireless, and it can also go over a 3.5 and a USB-C cable. So if someone has found another headphone like that, please let me know, because I'd love to test these side by side. The wireless planar that I described from Edifier doesn't have ANC. So wireless planars are already a little uncommon. Wireless planars with ANC might not exist. All right, let's get this out of the way here. Sorry, Faraloose is talking about some interesting conversations with Apple fans and HomePod fans, but it's pretty great. So Faraloose, this is one of the things that I'm trying to push back against, because I know my audience is a little niche like that. Faraloose writes, most people do not care about quality. I mean, every time I go around someone's house, they're still watching the SD channels because 001 is standard definition and 101 is HD, but people are just used to pressing one. This goes hand in hand with a conversation that I've been having for a while now, that there are very few resources for someone to stay educated on what's happening in tech. And maybe not just in tech, but in sort of consumer goods in general. And you look at how long it takes to sort of spread better information, and all it takes is one commercial from a $1 trillion corporation to undo good education and just pollute that with marketing material. And I don't know how to fix that. Person by person, what you're describing, like, so let's say you've got a standard definition channel and an HD channel, and you switch it and you go, and you see, doesn't that look better? And they're immediately going to get defensive because they didn't know, and they maybe didn't notice that there was a significant difference, or maybe they just weren't paying attention, or like you were saying, out of habit, they would just always go to that channel. And it's almost like, especially in North America, in the United States, you have to come at every conversation sideways and convince them that they've been victimized. Isn't this so annoying? They offer a higher quality version, and they never just switch the channel that you use. They're taking advantage of you, and you're paying for the HD. You do that? You're right. I am a victim. you're right. I have been spending more money and they have been taking advantage of me. And then they'll switch to HD just out of spite. But like when it comes to things like all this headphone chat, I bet you there are a number of people that have been watching like, hey man, this is all like snake oil. I tried good headphones one time and I couldn't hear any difference. And I appreciate that. But there's an education. And if you don't know what you're listening for, you're never going to know what sounds different, why it sounds different, and why you should care about that. It's almost like we need a late in life grown up re-education center. That sounds really dystopian. You need a re-education center just to teach people like this is why these different products, these different things do the things we say they do and why you should care. I keep seeing tons of like forum posts and Reddit conversations on things like the Pixel. This Pixel overheats. I don't get as good signal reception. My kid can't play a game on the Pixel. It's really choppy and it kills my battery life whenever they try. And if I just hang out in the circles of tech shills, I'm going to get a bunch of comments on my Pixel video saying no one cares about that. No one does things on their phones. Who even plays games on their phones? That doesn't matter to me. All I need is call screen. Fine, I guess. If you want to buy a $1,200 phone for a piece of software that runs just as well on their $600 phone, you can throw your money away. But we're selling these phones to consumers, and they're being directly compared in carrier stores to the most expensive iPhones and the most expensive Galaxies. And consumers don't understand why this is a different product. They don't understand that it's using an outdated GPU. They don't understand that it's using a crap Samsung radio. They don't understand that it has an undersized battery and it has the slowest charging. But it's got call screen. Cool. But there's no good resource for us to teach people that those things can matter if they care about doing these things. Does your kid play games on your phone? Well, you're going to hear them complain a lot if they're playing graphics intense games on a Pixel. Do you want to hassle with that? Well, then maybe you should buy something else. I don't need them to be experts on GPU configurations, and I don't need them to know, like, is this using Tensor ARM reference design C cores, or is this using, cryo cores? None of that. You don't have to go that deep. But some understanding of what contributes to the experience would be a benefit for a lot of people making a purchasing decision out there. Maybe you can get a better deal on a Pixel than you can on a Galaxy, but maybe spending a little more on a Galaxy is going to fit your needs better. Where is someone going to learn about that? So it's just upsetting because, like, I want to blame consumers for not being more intellectually curious, but at the same time, man, so many people just got to survive their day. So where do we send them to at least passively learn about some of these systematic differences? There are so many people I can walk up to here in the United States who are not into cars at all. They are not car people, but I can make just a joking reference about, like, yeah, it's a V8 and it's turbocharged. And someone in the back of their brain is going to go, oh yeah, those words mean goes faster, gets poorer gas mileage. There's an osmosis. But if I say, like iPhone A18 and Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 and octa-core processor and, giggle flips and megapixel, like none of those words have permeated because we've sort of allowed Apple's marketing department to take over the bulk job of consumer education on consumer electronics. It's not great. So, I mean, again, I'm vibing with your comment here. I just wish there was some other way to sort of approach that. But the only thing that I found that works consistently is to go into those conversations where it's really on them not having tried to find an HD, video source or a high quality audio source. But then make it sound like, oh, Spotify, you're paying for Spotify. You know how Spotify is taking advantage of you? No, you're paying so much money and you're listening at the lowest possible quality. And you might not care about that, but don't you care about how many subscriptions you have and how much you're paying? And is this really what you want to be spending your money on? There's, other, markets. I like Cobuzz, everything's at least CD quality. Isn't that funny? CD quality, and you're the victim. And you'll at least get them interested in not being victimized. WX Romer, I think it would be wild seeing someone wearing a gaming headset out and about connected to their phone. How many years ago was it? It was a long time ago. It was before the pandemic, and I got stuck at CES. I didn't have the right mic to connect to my phone, and I'm just doing some like casual wrap-up videos, and I'm wearing a gaming headset on the show floor at CES because it's the only way I could get a good isolated audio recording in. I'm gonna have to see if I can find some of those old videos. It's so funny. Oh, Robert, I appreciate you watching through some of my videos. Robert says it is difficult to convey. I, I I bring things up like that not to dismiss the idea, but I bring up that because I really am interested in what is a practical example of what a microphone on a headset can sound like. And so I'm hoping that through me describing these are the challenges that I've had in trying to come up with a system or a test that's meaningful or some understanding. Is this being used for game chat or for more traditional phone calls? I am looking for recommendations. This is a test that you can do consistently and reliably that would help me make a purchasing decision, is a conversation I will have all day, every day. I might not always be able to do the test you're describing, or I might not be able to add that to a repertoire of review, but I'll have a better understanding of what you're looking for. And maybe I'll even just be able to describe better what I hear when I listen to my own samples and stuff. I'm always interested, but I'm critically and tactically focusing on what is something that I can do consistently and something that will have a real world or a practical application that other people can do themselves. So that if we have similar experiences, then I know I'm doing my test consistently. If it's me setting up a special clean room and recording silence with a microphone and then introducing injected noise in a very synthetic kind of environment, I don't know that that's going to apply to your needs. You're going to get on an airplane, and my test is still not going to deliver what you need to hear when you get on an airplane. So that's why I will be so long-winded in describing why this has been a challenge, but it's not to shoot people down. I really do want to hear, what is it that you're hoping to learn, and is there a way that I can contribute to that conversation? Oh, Faraloose, my parents, I did this with the World Cup, and they cannot see a difference. To them, they just pick the easiest option. I cannot teach them the 101 level. That's tough. That is tough because at that point too, there's almost sort of an obstinance too. Like, I don't even care if it's better, and you're like, okay, I can't make you care. You, I believe you. You cannot see a difference, and especially for people with like, aged eyesight issues and stuff like that. I totally get it, but if you're complaining about having a hard time seeing the score or play on the field and stuff like that, there's a fix, but you have to care enough to want to see the fix. I don't know. It's wild. uh oh yeah, and Robert, absolutely too, the Maxwell 2 ANC, it almost won, but it wasn't so much a headset that I could wear while out and about and catching a call. I mean, you can detach the microphone, but the audio quality non-boom mic isn't what I think most people are really vibing on. Oh, Mobile Dom. Speaking of pixels and heat, during the heat wave in the UK, my OG Pixel Fold got so hot that the adhesive holding the back panel let go. So I saw that on Blue Sky. He had to get us a kit to replace the adhesive on his Pixel Fold. And, if there's a better example of, human produced climate change, I don't know that we could find one, because that was designed with a certain set of low level tolerances in mind. And Dom surpassed those in the UK. So, oh boy, that's pretty tough. From Rob Aarons, the victim angle does work. I was able to get basically my entire family switch to MVNOs that way. Dude. So like my family is split between like US Mobile, Mint, Google Fi. There's still a lot of my family members on Google Fi, especially the ones that have to travel a lot internationally. But almost none of us are on main carriers anymore. And a big part of it was like, yeah, you're going to get like this reduced price for Netflix. But even Netflix, you still have to do ads and pay more on top. So if you're already having to add that to your monthly finances, why not just get the cheaper phone service? And then you can choose more deliberately. So maybe it's a month of Netflix and then a month of HBO Max. And like, oh, yeah, that's great. And look at all the terrible things that the carriers do to you. Oh, sure. And then you can pick any phone you want to use on Mint. Oh, that's a great idea. I hadn't thought about it that way. Anytime you can make, especially American, anytime you can make them the victim, boy howdy, are they ready for your sympathy. They will not extend sympathy to anyone else struggling. It's the American way right now. No sympathy for anyone else, but I demand all the empathy when it happens to me. It's pretty rough. All right, so we're gonna do a quick little experiment here. And thank you. I know Team Vry kind of kicked that off. And if there were other specific questions, I'm sorry if I missed, like, you wanted me to break out the MM520s or something like that. I have a video on them. You can watch that video too. We're going to take a brief pause here and see if I can pull off something of a sponsored piece just to talk about my book. So I'll see you on the other side of a couple minutes. And then from there, we're going to chat some Samsung, because we got to talk about these Samsung phones, apparently. So that's kind of a big deal. Here it is. Same old cover image, brand new photography book. I'm really excited. This has been so much work. I'm very excited to be sharing this with you. It's the 10-year anniversary of my book on phone cameras. Take Better Photos, Smartphone Photography for Noobs. I started writing a blog post about depth of field just before my daughter was born, and that led me to a follow-up on phone lenses, then camera sensors, then camera apps and accessories, and before I knew it, I'd written thousands of words on the topic, and the only thing that made sense was to collect all of that data and turn it into a book. My daughter is 10 years old now, and that means the book is also 10 years old. Over the years, I've updated sections, added new topics, replaced example images, but no single update to the book has been as significant as this one. I've done total rewrites to sections about technique, whole new chapters for tips and tricks, and I've more than doubled the sample photos and diagrams. A lot of this book is going to read like any other educational resource for a budding newbie photographer, and that's by design. I believe the phone camera has gotten good enough to more directly compete against standalone camera systems. The technique we might use is often similar, but I think there's a value in discussing that technique with these specific tools in mind. Instead of working backwards by learning about mirrorless cameras or DSLRs, and then we try to figure out how phones are different or how they might be able to do some of the same things, let's start the discussion with the tools people likely already have. Let's see if we can take the phone camera as far as we can go, and then decide if an upgrade to a proper standalone camera makes sense. This has been a really personal exercise in improving my own technique too. Phone cameras have improved radically over the last decade, and this book has become something of a diary for how I've pushed my phone cameras harder and how I've improved as a content creator who relies on mobile tools to get his work done. Not only have the phone cameras gotten better, I've gotten better. The book is a practical record of what I've done to become a better photographer. Another bit of exciting news. When I self-published this book originally, I did not have a lot of options for where this book could live. I missed out on that window. Google Books was accepting self-published works, but nowadays, I'm not too sad about missing out on Google. With the 10th anniversary version, though, I'm happy to announce that Take Better Photos will also be available on the Kobo bookstore and available in the Kobo Select program, and will soon be made more broadly available to libraries through Overdrive. I'm so happy to have these other options to share my book. And it's funny, seeing my book on a website storefront is nice, but seeing it show up in a library app will really feel like the day my book has arrived, that it's a real thing. It's in a library. And I'm also not pulling any switch on this new edition of the book. If you've purchased the book in the past, you can update it through the ebook store that you bought it from, and the new edition should pop right up. I'm not trying to make people rebuy my book. I want this to be a living document that evolves as phone cameras change. If you join me on this, I want us to explore together. So I'll have links below in the video description or on the website where I'm hosting this video where you can buy the book on both Kindle and Kobo. The book's gonna be available on their respective subscription services. I'd totally appreciate if this is something you might want to read, but you don't want to do business with those companies. I'll humbly ask if you would want to give it a read for free, that you reach out to your local library and ask if maybe they'll grab a copy through Overdrive. So you can check it out as an ebook, and if they do that, please send me a message so I can shout it out. I want to call out all the libraries that are stocking a copy of this book. This has been a labor of love for 10 years now. I have a lot more gray in my beard. The technology has never been more exciting, and I hope you'll join me on this ride. If you're a newbie photographer and you're interested in taking your skills up a notch, check out the links in the description below. If you're a more experienced photographer and you're just wanting to get a handle on what you can do with the phone, I think there's a lot in this book that you're also gonna dig. And just a huge thank you for all the people who have been supporting this project, buying the book directly, or supporting me on the Patreon, patreon.com/somegadgetguy. None of this or this would have been possible without your support. Thanks so much for watching, for sharing this content on the socials, and subscribing to my YouTube channel, and I'll catch you on the next video. Here it is. Same old cover. Oh, there we go. And now I couldn't unmute the microphone. I couldn't turn the video off because of where the chat was. So that's good to know. It seems like the video played okay there. So that's just funny. Real good at doing the live stream stuff. It I appreciate everybody letting me kind of play that little experiment there. I might start using that as kind of the mid roll in the podcast, regardless, because when you do the audio downloads, the public version still has these little inserts that I've got for where ad breaks could be, but it's me talking about stuff that I think is important, or maybe I do have a sponsor, or I'm just trying to highlight another creator that I really like their work. So I might start adding those in, but I had no idea how, if it would work during the stream or not. So good to know. And also just I got to figure out a more graceful way to end the video. It loops. I don't know that I need the video to loop. So it's pretty great. So, last week I saw lots of my friends out there, hobnobbing it up and doing some fun stuff with the folks at Samsung. Apparently, they've announced some new phones or something, which is great because they're such a plucky little brand and no one really cares about what they do. So it was nice to see some of those other content creators kind of throwing Samsung a bone and like trying to at least talk about some of these products. I don't think any of them are going to sell, but it's nice to have the niche. We can always have sort of the option. It's good to have some competition in the space, and just am I even saying the name of that company right? Samsung. So anyway, I can't help but be snarky. Please remember, while we talk about these folding phones, which I still don't believe have cracked 4% of the smartphone market share yet, after 8 years, after 8 generations of folding phone from Samsung, we're still not only in single digit, but like in crazy low single-digit sales, and the majority of folding phones are more of a flip form factor. And right now, Motorola is doing pretty good in that space, given how low volume these things sell. Please just keep in mind that while we talk about Samsung phones, that Samsung is set to make more money this year in profit than they've made in the last 10 years combined. Depending on what markets we're talking about, they could be set to make more money this year than they've made in the last 20 years combined. And they are actively telling shareholders that their guidance over the next several fiscal quarters is going to be even higher than their estimations were just a couple months ago, because they are savagely profiteering from the crisis of memory and silicon and storage. And there's another potential lawsuit brewing. No, there's another lawsuit brewing. It's not potential. Looking at another round of collusion from Samsung. Samsung has done this a lot in their company's history, where they work with some of their competitors to drive out other competitive options. And then when you get down to like 2 or 3 companies, for example, in RAM, it's Micron, SK Hynix, and Samsung are the main suppliers of RAM. Well, then they don't necessarily need to work together, but they can all raise prices at the same time while reducing capacity, reducing the amount of RAM out there in the market right now, and everyone gets burned by it. But those 3 companies have been making more money over the last year than they ever have in the history of those 3 companies before. But surely it's just a coincidence that they're all deploying the exact same business models at the same time. So especially when we talk about the Z Fold 8 and how it's had another price hike, thankfully only about $100, right? And all told, like, that's not a terrible price increase, but it sucks to see any, especially really expensive device, hit another price increase. That this is yet again all because of Samsung's market manipulation, potential collusion, and their terrible business practices, which always manage to hurt their most loyal and diehard customers first, before spreading on to everybody else in component pricing and in regulatory manipulation. I have a standalone podcast detailing the years of abuse that Samsung has levied in the consumer market, how they're well overdue a massive market correction. If you want to listen to me talk for 90 minutes about how much I dislike this company, that podcast is available on the podcast service that you might have caught this video on. So let's talk about the Z Fold. Aren't we so excited for a new folding phone, guys? Aren't we so stoked? I don't even know if BW1 is still in the chat. I know we might have just burned him out with with our headphone conversation for the last 40 minutes. But I needed to I needed to just kind of express all that. So Z Fold 8 and Z Fold 8 Ultra, I feel vindicated that Samsung has finally realized that the form factor from the Microsoft Surface Duo is a useful and valuable form factor that Huawei has also championed, that we've seen some variations, similarities, like it wasn't quite this extreme, but like the original Pixel Fold fit this. One of the Oppos, I think, was a little more squat. Oh, and BW1 is still here. So if you have legit questions from someone who's actually used the product and isn't just using this as a way to soapbox his bias against Samsung, you can also address questions to BW1, who has way more experience actually handling the product than me just griping about it. But I am happy to see that years later, 5 years later from the Surface Duo, that, yeah, this was always a good option. The squatter, squarer outer screen is really nice, and I feel the opening screen for that is very useful too. So depending on which experience you're looking for, I'm screen sharing right now for people that are listening to the audio replay. The Galaxy Z Fold 8 Ultra looks a lot more like the Z Folds that we've seen in the past. A big, lumpy, triple camera array on the back. And the Z Fold 8 has that dual camera system that looks really iPhone-y. because Samsung doesn't have any original ideas. They basically just tried to copy Apple, and they tried to beat Apple in copying them to whatever Apple might release next, as we all remember the iPhone Air. There's a little like video thing I think we can click on. Ooh, and they fold. So that's pretty snazzy. There's only 8 generations of Z Fold, and we're still doing this thing where phones are floating in nebulous white space, and then a tablet will fold in half, and boom, now it's a phone. And I think this is one of the things that I'm talking about before. Like, I want to give Samsung's mobile division a little grace here, because it is extremely difficult to teach consumers about a new form factor, about a new feature, something like a folding screen. It takes a ridiculous amount of advertising and marketing, but we're still doing the folding nebulous phone floating in space. And I don't think we've done a good enough job. Do you remember back in the Galaxy S3 and S4 days, Samsung would put out commercials with funny comedic sitcom actors interacting. My favorite series was The Pool Party. So all of these hip people are hanging out at a pool party, and old people are using the iPhone, and the hip young people are tapping and sharing photos and using the phone as a universal remote to change channels on an outdoor TV. And they're doing all these things, and like hover air gestures. Remember, we were trying to do some of that stuff back in that era. But the commercial was heavily focused on all the things a Galaxy could do that an iPhone couldn't do. And unfortunately, that's our best opportunity at educating consumers about how tech works. Is a company like Samsung at the time was probably spending around $2 billion a year on marketing. Roughly, I'm kind of guessing. I know they hit almost $10 billion a year in marketing after the Note 7 exploded. So then, for the folding phone era, where has that mainstream mass market commercial gone? Because a lot of these commercials are what I'm showing on camera right now. It's a blank white space, and I push this little play button, and a tablet is floating in space and folds on its own and is held in a really awkward way that no one would ever hold a phone. And that's a main demonstration of what a folding phone is and does. We don't advertise tablets well enough for all the cool things a tablet could do. And Samsung is actually better than most. I have an article from 2 or 3 years ago. I think it was for the Z Fold 6. But on Samsung's website and on Samsung's YouTube channel, you could find these little videos. The one I really remember was a fashion designer. She's going about her day. She's doing some sketches with a pen, with an S Pen, and she's setting up this stuff, and she closes it in this. She sits down and she opens the tablet so she has more canvas space. And it was a really well put together, like, I want to say it was like 90 seconds, but glimpse of a day in the life. And that, I think, has still been one of the absolute best examples of what a foldable could do, but it didn't really get a ton of mass market advertising, commercial marketing in traditional media. It's a YouTube video. And you need to put that YouTube video way more aggressively on TV, because so many people I'll show people like a flip, and they're like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. Oh, it's kind of fun. Like, you hang up on your call by folding it closed. That's it. That's what they think the experience is. It's exactly the same as my normal phone, but I can hang up on a call by folding it closed. So we're not getting the job done, guys. 8 generations of folding phone, and we're still kind of having the same nebulous floating, look, it's a tablet, and now it folds in half. And I think we could be doing better than that. From Fat Produce, it's funny, I really like my OG Pixel Fold, but to be honest, I'm enjoying smaller and thicker rugged phones and foldables these days. I know Andrew has been rocking a Tank, and what was the other one, a Ulefone? And you're like, he's really getting into some rugged gear. It is really fun. It's kind of fun to see. Bradley Larcher saying, I remember that commercial. It's really a shame, because I think if other phone companies had stuck with practical marketing instead of lifestyle fashion marketing, everyone wants to try and out Apple, and you're never gonna. But even Apple will show practical marketing, like that terrible commercial, the little girl, what's a computer? Like, she's such an idiot because she uses an iPad. She can't fathom what the word computer means. I hate that commercial because of the last line, but the whole commercial leading up to it is practical demonstration. These are all the things you can do on your iPad. Where is that mass market, traditional television, sporting event commercial for foldables? Because I'll tell you, people really don't know what foldables can do. From Ishmael, I'm Mr. Frugal in this phase in my life. I'm pretty happy filling up my used mid-rangers with 512 gigs of memory for under $150. And for a tablet experience, I just have a decent budget tablet bedside, because that is always going to be the point I bring up. I have a OnePlus Pad 3 in front of me, and if I had if I had paired that with my OnePlus 15, that would be significantly less money for a phone and tablet experience. Obviously, I can't fit both in my pocket at the same time, but I will have spent a lot less, and I will have had two devices. So if I'm the dad of a family who doesn't do what I do for a living, do I want to spend $2,000 on a folding plastic screen mini tablet, or do I buy the OnePlus Pad and the OnePlus 15, and then when my kid wants to do something, I have a tablet that I can give them to do that thing, and I still have my phone? If I only have the foldable and I have a kid and my kid wants to do something, I have to hand them a $2,000 fragile folding bendy plastic screened device. I don't like that idea as much. I think the foldable makes a lot more sense if you're on your own, you're not doing the family thing, then you don't have to worry about carting two separate devices. But if you're in a family, or if there's an expectation that you're going to need something that can kind of offload one type of work and then have a phone for communication, the two device strategy is way, way less expensive for a top tier premium kind of experience. From BW1, I think the issue is that the S26 series and the A series phones are just better revenue drivers for Samsung, retail, and carriers. So I'd be really interested to see, like, in other markets where the carrier model isn't as aggressive, isn't that where we would probably see A series overwhelmingly outpacing Galaxy S and Galaxy Z? But I don't know. I kind of feel like here in the United States, and this isn't unique to Samsung, I feel like all of these companies get lazy, especially if they're going through any kind of carrier deal, because the carrier is really going to be where people find out about the device. And then people walk into a carrier store and the guy behind the counter goes, you should buy an iPhone. And then that's it. That's your carrier marketing experience. Any of these companies that could take the conversation more directly to consumers on their own would be doing better in terms of sales in the United States. And we know this because after the Note 7 exploded, Samsung was spending between $5 and $10 billion a year just on marketing. And they did that for about 2 or 3 years. And that's the peak sales time. It peaked right in between the Galaxy S10 and the Galaxy S20. That is the time in Samsung's history that they sold the highest number of phones above $600. And then sales fell off a cliff between 2020 and 2021, and then fell further between 2021 and 2022 to the tune of something like 40%. And they've been inkling back up again, but foldables have not replaced that era where we had a Galaxy S, a Galaxy S Plus, and a Galaxy Note. Foldables have not made up any of that difference. And I believe, again, this is my assertion. This is not like backed up by analyst data, but I believe it's a problem of marketing. They were so aggressive in trying to convince consumers that their phones were safe to use again, that they had all these great models, look at all these great features. They went back to an education marketing, let's make fun of Apple for getting rid of things like the headphone jack, showing how their product was different than the iPhone for a year. That got people on board buying more Samsung. But right now, it really seems like Samsung's just waiting for Apple to deliver their foldable. And they just beat Apple to the punch, but Apple will validate the foldable market. And if the iPhone Ultra sells well, they know they'll get a little bit of a bump, because who's going to buy the non-Apple foldable? Well, there's the Samsung foldable. I want a foldable just like an iPhone, but I don't want to buy an iPhone. And now I know that foldables exist, so I could buy a non-iPhone foldable. And that's why I feel like that's not how this should work. It's not how it works. If Samsung wants to pump those numbers up, they're not doing the groundwork like they used to. So BW1, we can say that. Eyeballs are on social media over TVs too. A TV commercial will cost more and most likely reach less over what can be pushed to social media and YouTube with creators. But that is not the trend that we saw play out recently with Google. And I don't mean traditional marketing like just on a TV channel for a sitcom. Where did Google really get a big market presence awareness push? Traditional television marketing, especially on sporting events. Massive audiences, everyone watching at the same time, tie-ins where athletes would be holding up pixels on their social media, but that traditional all-inclusive marketing event. There were billboards, there were YouTube videos, there were television commercials just on regular television programming like sitcoms, and then massive spends on places where they knew eyeballs were going to be watching all at the same time. So if you don't have that entire comprehensive traditional marketing outlay, then your YouTube strategy is vastly overrated. I can get millions of impressions, and no one's going to know about your product. Millions of impressions means nothing. Especially like, look at like you do a sponsorship on a tech channel, all you're doing is reaching the audience of people who already know about your product. You're not finding any new consumers there. That's why they all raced so hard to try and get their phones in the hands of like beauty vloggers back in the day. But we know that that strategy doesn't work that well. Because, yeah, they'll take your money and show a Samsung in a couple of their vlogs. And then as soon as that money is done or that partnership is been completed, that sponsorship is gone, they're going to go back to holding up an iPhone. And all of the people that were regulars on their channel know that that was a cynical exercise in product placement. And they're still going to follow the beauty blogger for the makeup tutorials. They're not going to follow, oh, you know what I should do is buy a Motorola because Paris Hilton held one up during a Google keynote. No one buys that. No one believes it. The influencer side of this is so much less effective, so much more overrated, but the numbers look real big, but the practical results of this don't matter nearly as much as when you go out and you do the traditional marketing thing. When Microsoft was going hard on the Surface, from Surface 1 to Surface 3, Surface Pro 1 to Surface Pro 3, traditional television commercials, there were print advertisements, there were billboard advertisements. They had some where it was fun dancing videos, some where it was like, hey, look at this, it's a tablet, now it's a laptop. Like they did the practical stuff, they did the aesthetic fashion stuff, and they brute forced their way into single digit sales in market share. But that's what it took for the product to be taken seriously enough to get good reviews on YouTube. So I'm not trying to argue, but every time we see where did the Pixel really find its footing, it wasn't through any kind of merit. It wasn't that the device was so much better. It happened when Google spent $1 billion in a year on traditional marketing efforts, tying them into their online strategies. And sporting events were a massive way to get huge awareness on how that was all going down. Oh, Mobile Dom taking off, much to my dismay. Juan, I'll have to love you and leave you. Well, it was nice to see you in the chat, man, and I'll follow you around and stalk you on Blue Sky. But everyone check out Dom because he's going to start a new blog talking about tech again because he's good people, and I hope to see him uh, writing his own content very, very soon. So, this entire time I've been vetching. We haven't even gotten into the tablet. So Z Fold, Z Fold 8 Ultra, Z Fold 8. The one that I'm actually interested in is the regular Z Fold 8. I have no illusions that cameras are going to be good. I just don't believe. Oh, is this even? I didn't even go to the learn more here. I don't believe the cameras on either of these are going to be great. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that the Z Fold 8 Ultra is basically the same set of cameras that we've been using for a couple of generations now, which are mediocre cameras to put on such an expensive phone. So to me, this is the Z Fold 8 non Ultra is kind of in the same boat as where I was with the Surface Duo. I know it's not going to be a content creation powerhouse device. So I'm really looking at it as a media and entertainment kind of device. And I love, like, look at Samsung jumping through hoops here. So I've got a little video clip, brand new, innovative shape. And they're showing all the things that have been squat rectangles. Wouldn't you believe it? This is a good form factor. Cameras were this form factor, little books are this form factor, little gaming devices like Game Boy style devices are this form factor. What was the other one that they showed? Ooh, the cassette tape player was a squat rectangle. See, guys, it's a good form factor. And we've been saying stuff like that since the BlackBerry Passport, a good squat square kind of form factor. I'm going to pull it off the shelf as an example. But here's my Surface Duo 2, and you would fold it all the way out, and it's this squat kind of squarish form factor. Now everyone's just so impressed. You know, guys, I, I used to criticize this shape, but now I'm using the Z Fold 8, and through pure meritocracy, my earnestly held opinion on this form factor has totally been changed. And here's my affiliate link. You can see it's a Howl link, HOWL, and you'll make me a lot of money if you go and pre-order your Samsungs. Now that we can finally agree that this form factor was always good. It didn't matter when Samsung wasn't doing it. So I have to be snarky and pissy about that. This is still, I feel like, one of the best tablety experiences I've ever had in my entire life. And it's a shame. It's a shame that Microsoft sucks so bad at device continuity. Because, like, if we had gotten to a Surface Duo 3 running Windows and Windows on ARM, it would be really good today. Like, it would be really good today if we could have had that. What was it? The Courier? Was that the project that Microsoft did? So, Z Fold 8, rated #1 in durability, a screen for your social feed. I love that they're putting so much attention on the less ultra E version of this. And now their website is not letting me scroll any further. So I can't show more. I don't know what just kind of locked up on the Samsung website. Let me try refreshing because that just got weird. Yeah, the Samsung website totally just locked up on me. I'm assuming it's probably me and an issue with Firefox. From JGJ, Mr. Mobile groaned about the cameras on his preview of the Z Folds. I don't know what to tell people. I feel like the Pixel Fold got a little bit better, but the original Pixel Fold was not a great set of cameras. The Samsungs have never been great cameras. Like, they're fine in a very traditional, average consumer point and shoot. Here's a photo, a poorly composed photo of my lunch for Instagram. And whenever I take photos of people, it's always in portrait orientation with a full body shot of them at some place. And it's very awkwardly posed and staged and never makes people look good. Those are the kind of cameras that are on Galaxy S not Ultra, and Galaxy Z. So I have no illusions that, you know, we're going to somehow suddenly get like an Amazeballs camera on the Z Fold. Okay, it finally unlocked itself. But I really do like the idea, and this is I think Samsung's on the right trajectory here. I just think they need to do a better job of explaining how some of this stuff works. But they're talking about content and consumption. It's a 10 by 16. Get immersed in social media. Like, okay, it's a one photo at a time scroll on the outer screen, and then it's a 4:3 internal. And 4:3 is a pretty flexible aspect ratio, so that when you're watching movies and widescreen content, you're not going to notice the hole punch because it's going to be letterboxed. And 4:3 looks really good for classic television and a lot of so like some of the movies that were shot 16 millimeter to really maximize the frame. It's hilarious, but this could be one of the best ways to watch the Snyder Cut if you're into that kind of content, because that was framed 4:3. We don't always get those differences, like why is it pillar boxed or why is it letterboxed? But this is actually a really useful and flexible arrangement for a variety of different pieces of media. And then for photography, if you shoot native for a micro four thirds or most phone cameras, that's going to be a full screen view of the photo. I mostly shoot 4:3 on my Vivos. So stuff like that can be really handy. That's why, again, I feel like it took them 8 years too long to figure this out when we had really good examples of multitasking, work and productivity, dual display devices. But it's nice seeing Samsung eventually get there after Huawei. And I think Apple will probably arrive at something a little bit more like this, just kind of a little squatter and flatter. From BW1, I think people did like the shape, but a lot of devices available in the US didn't have the software UI quality that Samsung provides compared to the Surface Duo that MS sucked at doing. I mean, I know you're not wrong that Microsoft doing an Android device was probably not great, but let's not rewrite history. The earliest versions of the Z Fold, yeah, you had a lot of One UI stuff for traditional phone use, but the ability to move between screens with gestures, Microsoft did more of that for Android 11 than Samsung did. And Microsoft had to break Android 11 to make that functionality work, and they did it better. A lot of those gestures are better, cleaner, simpler, with better conveyance than the menus you would have to go through on the Z Fold. So now when we look at, especially on the Z Fold 8, where you've got this really cool thing like you can open up a TikTok video on one half of the screen and you see comments on the other. Those types of split screen, dual screen interactions all came from the Duo. I mean, credit where credit's due. The other company that does not get enough credit for introducing the idea of split screen multitasking better was LG, because dual display on LG was better, faster, better conveyance, more consistent than trying to do all those same actions on a Z Fold. LG's dual display was great. And simple like tap swipe gestures. I want to flip screens. I want to try you would have to install an app, but you could get it to go full screen over both screens. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you could. Stuff like that was all cleaner. But again, a bunch of tech reviewers went, "Oh, but this is different. And who could even learn a different thing?" And they made it sound like it was the most impossible chore to do gestures on a Duo. Look, I'm wildly flinging this thing and it's not doing what I want it to do. And you're like, yeah, that's bad hand acting. But the reality of living with it, from anyone who took it seriously and tried it for more than just the minute that they would put it on camera, the Duo was better. Gestures were better. So JGJ, Surface Neo was the Duo companion that would have run Windows. But before that, I think it was called Project Courier. and that was a dual display Windows running device that I think was shown off like 4 years before Neo was canceled. So there have been these permutations of Windows to try and bring in a mobile folding tablet kind of experience. But to BW1's point, what we wanted was Windows on ARM. And especially today, if I could get this form factor and keep it dual display, if I could get this form factor running a Dimensity 9400 or a Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, and then put Windows on ARM on this would immediately become one of the most powerful laptops on the market, and it would fold up and be a really great mobile device at the same time. This running Windows on ARM today would be an absolute beast of a tiny mobile productivity device. BW1, Z Fold Ultra has the same camera, but now includes the 50 megapixel tele. But what tele? Is it the 1/2 inch? Is it the 1/2.5? Is it the 1/2.7? The megapixels don't tell you anything. That's not what makes cameras better. And I have a book on that called Take Better Photos, Smartphone Photography for Noobs. And supporting APV capture is cool, but APV, I think, is probably going to come in a little better if you use Blackmagic camera. I like the controls better on Blackmagic. And then if you really want to go in, man, some of the log settings and the dual conversion gain that you can get out of Motion Cam is ruthlessly stunning. So good. So if you pick yourself up a Samsung phone, I would highly recommend leaving the Samsung camera apps for video and checking out Blackmagic Camera and Motion Cam Pro. I mean, if you really want to dig into why you would use APV, log, play with LUTs, and really get into some high bitrate content, Samsung's app is fine, but you can push those cameras so much harder. It's just a shame that you don't get better cameras. So I get why you want a foldable for like productivity. Totally understand. I totally understand why you would want a foldable for entertainment, but you don't want a foldable for cameras. You just don't. If you think you want to rely on some mobile cameras, you got to go Vivo, Xiaomi, or Oppo. Vivo, Xiaomi, Oppo will embarrass the camera hardware on Apple, Google, Samsung. It's not close. It is a significant 2 to 3 generation advantage. And at the price, so again, let's be real. If I could get the Z Fold 8, I would be spending about as much money as I spent on the Vivo X300 Ultra with the camera kit. Has a 200 millimeter equivalent adapter, a 400 millimeter equivalent adapter, has a main camera, a telephoto camera sensor that is definitely competitive against the main camera on the Z Fold 8. Like there is no area where the Z Fold 8 is competitive at all. So $2,000 to $2,000, I'm good. And then I can slap on an app like Motion Cam or an app like Blackmagic Camera and viciously destroy the video that is going to come out of a Samsung foldable. You cannot keep all of the physics of the larger camera sensors, the deeper depth, the larger lenses that you would need to use, the bigger batteries, the faster charging. It all falls apart when you go for thin. So if it's an entertainment device, that makes perfect sense to me. $2,000 is a lot to spend on an entertainment device, but if you want one of the best examples of a portable folding pocket entertainment device, it's the Z Fold 8. But content creation, you can miss me with camera chat on what's going on with Samsung right now. I'm sorry, I'm catching up with chat and comments here. Oh yeah, BW1. I actually used APV log for the beginning of my hands-on using the Samsung camera on the S26 Ultra. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great use for the best cameras Samsung will put into their own phone. And if you liked that experience, I would highly recommend picking up a Xiaomi or picking up a Vivo and really seeing what you can do with even bigger camera sensors. Like the 1/1.4 inch telephoto is murking the S26. These 1/1.2 and 1 inch type sensors are demolishing that 200 megapixel main camera on the S26. Again, it's like, it is good. It is functional. It's just a shame Samsung is making so many of these sensors for other companies and they won't put them in their own most expensive phones. But they are being sold to competitors, just they don't have to worry about those competitors ever fighting us here in the United States. But if you care about using APV, log, getting that incredible video quality, someone in the chat, please remind me. There was the guy who did the deep dive on the X300 Ultra using Motion Cam Pro and just showing like the utterly insane improvement in dynamic range, how wildly low the noise was. I did a little sample of that in my camera deep dive, but this guy went to another degree. I get the footage from the telephoto sensor using Motion Cam Pro on the Vivo, and it looks like I'm shooting 16 millimeter film with an incredible dynamic range. It's stunning. And it's so easy to mix that footage into proper workflows against other mirrorless cameras. I cannot tell you, the quality of that just looks insane. So if you like using APV log, I promise you, you're going to have your mind blown on that S26 Ultra by switching over to Motion Cam. And then if you really want to push what a phone can do, leave Samsung and go Vivo, Xiaomi, Oppo. Especially that Oppo telephoto sensor is ludicrous. It's the same size as the main camera on the S26. Why are we even pretending Samsung is in the camera conversation, except to supply sensors to their competitors that they themselves will not use? Sorry, I get stuck on that a lot. Oh, BW1, they're still doing it. You know, Sony did the same thing for years with camera sensors. Absolutely. You don't see me holding up an Xperia right now saying, oh, but yeah, the camera's on this. You used to have an advantage with Sony cameras for eye detection, autofocus, and high frame rate 4K. You could pick up an Xperia 1 Mark III and shoot 4K 120 at a time where no one else was doing it. So I would suffer a smaller sensor on the telephoto to have this kind of technical capability. Now there are five phones on my desk that all have bigger, better sensors than what Sony will put in their own phone, and that also support 4K 120. So we've moved on. And I'm not sitting here trying to import every Sony Xperia to talk about how great the photography experience is, because Vivo breaks them. And at a lower price, when you look at just the phone, I can pick up the Vivo X300 Ultra and spend less than the new Sony Xperia 1.8. Is it the 1.8? And every sensor is better, and there's more storage, and it's got a bigger battery, and it's got faster charging. Sony is guilty of it, sure. But Samsung, man, they could be doing so much better. And they have the hardware, the infrastructure, they have the distribution. They could put their own sensors in their phones and make more money and charge more and get better results. But they don't need to, because Apple and Google aren't doing it either. So Samsung is happy to not be a market leader and just coast behind whatever Apple might be doing on the next iPhone Pro. Sorry. Was there anything specific that we wanted to talk about? Like, you know, we can say, ooh, performance optimized for Galaxy. And yeah, it's a Snapdragon 8 Elite. I'm pretty sure it's going to be right in there with other examples of the 8 Elite. It's going to lose a lot of fights to the Dimensity, especially if you're talking about content creation and video. But a 4,800 milliamp hour battery. How are we feeling about a larger screen device with a 4,800 milliamp hour battery? because I'm not feeling great about sub 5,000, bigger screen. Like it was a little bit of a pain point on the, I mean, I'm holding up something like the Duo. So we know, like, I've used phones with bigger screens or more screen real estate that had smaller batteries. But you compare that to the modern experience of using a phone with a 6,000 milliamp hour cell or a 7,000 milliamp hour cell, and then you add a bigger screen to it. And I just feel like we're kind of in a really obnoxious holding pattern where Samsung, again, could be a market leader. There's no reason why this couldn't be a 5,500, a 6,000 milliamp hour battery. How do we know that? Because we've seen it on other foldables that are decently thin. And Samsung still isn't going to put that kind of money into their R&D to make that part of the experience better. I know if you're just streaming video, that's probably going to be fine. And you'll probably be able to watch video on an airplane or stream video on a data connection for a really long time. But when you're trying to make a portable pocket computer an everything device, I'm going to shoot photos of my kids, I'm going to have it connected to LTE and 5G data connections, and I'm going to do my work on it. And it's going to handle all of my social media, and it's going to handle all my communications. And I like to watch video, and I can split screen. I can watch video on one half of it while I do something else on the other half. That to me does start to sound like it's a bit lean. It's a little less than it should be. But that also would have been, oh, do you want it to be more expensive? It's already $1,900. And you're kind of, yeah. Like, I'm glad that they're finally using a battery technology that allows them to keep the device thinner, and it's 4,800 milliamp hours. But what is the current Oppo? Oppo Find, is it Find N6? Is that the one? GSM Arena, was that this year? Yeah, 2026. So let's scroll down, and it's a 6,000 milliamp hour battery with 80-watt wired charging. So I get it. It's less than 5,000 to a 6,000. It's a 20% battery increase. Maybe you don't care about 20% more runtime out in the field. Has the same, is it the 8 Elite Gen 5 options for a terabyte of storage, 16 gigs of RAM? Okay. What did this sell for? It was like 1,500 euro. So the Find N6 is better in every single spec, and it's like roughly 300 euro cheaper. So cool. I'm glad. Samsung is probably using a newer, better battery technology, but they're still fitting it with a smaller battery. Oh, did I walk away from that? So I didn't feel particularly excited about this announcement. New Z Fold is the one that I was the most interested in. The Z Fold Ultra does improve on a lot of these like performance and camera specs and stuff like that. But when you get through the Z Fold 8 and you're looking at their marketing materials, dual 50 megapixel cameras means nothing. The resolution of a 50 megapixel sensor is really a 12 megapixel photo. It's a 12 megapixel photo, and they've split every large red, green, and blue pixel into 4 smaller pixels. So it's technically a 12.5 megapixel image that you get out of this. Every single time you see 108 megapixels, 200 megapixels, you can always work that down to a 12 megapixel image. And especially once you start going to like 200 megapixel JPEGs, you're not getting 200 megapixels of information through that lens. It's impossible. What you're getting is a demosaic algorithm, AI enhanced, sharpened image. And as soon as you zoom in to a crop that you could have achieved at full resolution, once you zoom past that point, you can see all of the wormy, smeary AI elements in trying to make that image look sharper. It is a larger image, but it's not more detailed. You can't crop down that far in 50 or 200 megapixels. So I don't know what is, do they have like the spec sheet? I just want to see on the Z Fold 8 with these 50. Screw it. I'm going to go to GSM Arena and just see if they have Z Fold 8, all of the camera specs finally listed. Oh, wait. Whoops. It's Z Fold 8. There we go. Not Z Fold 8. I always forget where to put the space. So 1/1.57 inch main camera and a 1/2.5 inch ultra wide. So that's not bad. The 1/2.5 inch, that's still a functional sensor today. It's similar to the sensor in the main camera on the Surface Duo that I just held up. But the 1/1.57, I have Infinix phones with 1/1.57 inch type sensors. So you can get a $300 phone that's going to compete pretty well against the photo quality, not the video quality. It's going to compete pretty well against the photo quality of the Z Fold 8. But let me just, to be fair, let me catch the Z Fold 8 Ultra. And what do we have? The 200 megapixel 1/1.3. So that's not the NX. I forget which HP something image sensor. So that's a pretty solid sensor. It's gonna compete well enough against the main camera on the Z Fold 8 Ultra is gonna compete well from a hardware stance against the newest iPhone Pro, that main camera sensor. It's gonna compete well against the Pixel. It's gonna be better than the Pixel camera sensor. It's the same size image sensor as what I have in the Vivo X200 Pro, but it's smaller than the sensor on the X300 Ultra, the Xiaomi Ultra, the Oppo Ultra. All of those have significantly larger main camera sensors. So according to this, the telephoto is the same 10 megapixel 1/3.94 inch, a 1/4 inch type sensor. Is that really what they're using on the telephoto? Is it the same 10 megapixel? Because that's a terrible camera sensor. It's the same one that you would have on the Galaxy S26 and S26 Plus. I thought they had moved up to the 1/2.5, but they're using the 1/2.5 on the ultra wide. So you get the 50 megapixel. The thing that was always hilarious to me, this is an over $2,000 phone, and it has a 10 megapixel sensor for the telephoto. And when you take a photo, it saves it as a 12 megapixel image. So it just makes up 20% of the resolution. Now, I want you to think back when I was talking about how I got a little bump in my blog traffic by talking about the OnePlus and all of the nerds that were coming out. It's really a 10 megapixel image, but OnePlus only lets you use 8 megapixels, and just freaking out about cropping into the sensor to give you more reach, because that's how crop factor works. And for years on Galaxy S and Galaxy S Plus and Galaxy Z Fold, $2,000 phones, no one seems to have any issues with one of the worst sensors that's ever been put into a phone making up 20% of its resolution. And in any world that you would pick that phone up over a Vivo Pro and use the telephoto sensor here and not just die of shill embarrassment to say Samsungs have good cameras too. There is no world where you could put those kinds of cameras up against each other and have a competitive showcase between a Samsung and a Vivo, a Samsung and an Oppo, a Samsung and a Xiaomi. If you think you care about telephoto camera performance, you've got to go Samsung Ultra for an okay baseline, or you got to go Vivo, Xiaomi, Oppo for the real good stuff, for a camera with some reach, for a camera with better depth of field, for a camera with better low light sensitivity, for a camera with better tail. It's not Samsung, especially on their $2,000 device. So I'm sorry, it's just real dumb. Oh, I didn't know that. Simon says Hypno that the Moto Fold has a 1/1.28 inch type main sensor. So I will say, depending on the permutations of sensors and how you use the software for those cameras, the difference between a 1/1.28 and a 1/1.13, did I say that right? I don't think I did, is so functionally small. Like, I want to be snarky. Oh, it's a 1/1.3. Oh, Samsung can't do anything right. But actually, that's still a fine camera sensor. The fact that my Vivo is a 1/1.28 is so functionally small a difference that I think even the pixel pitch sizes are still the same. Like how we measure the nanometers of camera sensor size, like or pixel level size, is virtually identical, and that still puts us pretty close. When you shoot at 12 megapixels, it's pretty close to the pixel size on a Micro Four Thirds camera. So I can't be too pissy about that. I shoot Micro Four Thirds on my mirrorless cameras, and they're fine. They're good. Like, it's, you're not going to trick anyone into some kind of cinema experience on Micro Four Thirds, but the pixel pitch on this camera is just a tiny bit bigger than the pixel pitch on this phone. So that's fine for a $2,000 phone. But if I'm buying a phone and I think cameras are going to be important to me, I don't want fine. I want the best I can get. And it is not Apple, Google, or Samsung. Oh, BW1. Okay, so no worries. I wasn't trying to call you out on that. So he says, sorry, I meant to say the wide and not the telephoto, my mistake. That is still a functional upgrade. Getting a better wide angle camera for a lot of folks. Hey, I want to take a better group shot. Hey, I want to take video of myself. That wide where you can kind of crop in between, super useful. And that is an improvement. But I think we've moved internationally. We've moved where the reason why we've been going so hardcore on these telephotos is for how valuable a medium zoom range, somewhere between 70 and 100 millimeters, with close focus, the ability to take macro shots from a 75 millimeter equivalent, is so useful. Better close-up images, better head and shoulder portraits at around 75 millimeters, your ability to like capture a stunning shallow depth of field, your ability to take a better indoor shot because those sensors are better at soaking up light. That's why I've been so disappointed in the Galaxy S and the Galaxy S Plus, because those are mainstream usages. Everyone would benefit from a better telephoto sensor. Most people here in the United States don't even bother to try. It's indoors, it's cozy lighting. They pull their phone out of their pocket. Maybe it's a little too far, so they would have to pinch zoom. It goes to the other telephoto sensor. It goes super dark and grainy and blurry. I'm just not even going to bother taking that shot. And when I pull out a Vivo, those are the kind of candid photos I snap all night. And they look great. And people would care about that difference. People do care when I'm the one taking photos of their kids at like a party and it's indoors in a bowling alley and they've got laser lights going on and I'm getting these frozen, poses of kids bowling balls and like laughing, and it's lit side light with like a harsh blue gel, and it looks like how that moment felt. And no one with an iPhone is pulling that shot off, and no one with a Samsung is pulling that shot off. And it's not like I'm doing anything magic. I'm just using action mode on my Vivo. I'm not shooting raw so I can process this and do a de-blur with some AI. No. I push the little action mode guy and my photos crush. And Samsung makes the sensor that would make this possible. And instead, they're giving us quite possibly the worst camera sensor that's ever been put into a phone. That 1/3.94 inch type is awful. It is a bad sensor. It is not good. It is stupid and cheap, not inexpensive. It's not like an OmniVision sensor would be less expensive. This sensor is cheap in the way that we should have bile dripping from our lips when we say cheap. And that's the sensor they put on a $2,000 foldable. So it's just not a good look. I'm not holding you on that, BW1. Samsung could literally be doing better, and they won't, and they refuse to. Oh yeah, so Furchenbell, my Pixel 6 Pro has a 1/1.3 inch type sensor. So I will give Samsung some credit that the improvements to their sensor design, you do get better dynamic range out of this newer, I want to say it's an HP1. I can't remember what the name of the sensor is that they're using, the 200 megapixel. That is better than the 1/1.3 that's in the Pixel 6 Pro. But for the qualities of like depth of field and how you compose, and Google's image processing is pretty good. It's a little upsetting that we haven't moved much from the Pixel 6 Pro. 5 years later, American phones are still sitting in the same ballpark for overall optical quality on those types of image sensors. That we should be disappointed by that, because it's not like better sensors don't exist. The new OmniVision sensors are amazing. Sony's sensors are really expensive, but they're really cool. And Samsung's telephoto sensors are the gold standard, and Samsung won't use them. So Ishmael, this is funny. I'm gonna call you out on this one. Ishmael P says, at this time, I have no clue which camera sensor numbers are good or what they mean. I just remember my 16 megapixel decade old Galaxy Camera 2 having a 20x optical zoom that no phone has been able to match. So I'm going to pull up patreon.com/somegadgetguy. And I'm going to go into my posts and I'm going to do a quick search for point. I think it was point and shoot. And we're going to wrap up this podcast. I'm going to, so I did do a public version of this. I don't know if this is the one that you were talking about, but if it is, let me screen share here. I have an article, were point and shoot cameras as good as we remember them? And I have the Samsung Galaxy camera with the 20x optical zoom. And if you go through, during this article, I compared it against the Vivo X100 Pro. So not the X200 Pro, not the X300 Pro. When I wrote this, it was the GC100, which I believe used a 16 megapixel 1/1. I think it was a 1/, yeah, here it is. It's a 16 megapixel 1/2.3 inch type sensor. And when you go through photos, and I'm going to scroll down, we can see some of the photos. You can see clearly, but if you go to the article, how deep the depth of field is behind me. So wide open at full aperture. The phone is able to significantly separate me from the background, whereas everything is in crystal clear focus behind me from the Samsung. It's really not close. If you look at the actual size of the aperture, and I'm showing this as a relative, not actual size, but the blue circle is the aperture on the Galaxy camera, and one of those is way bigger than the other. And even down into things like, hey, I'm taking this photo and look at this truck that's way off in the distance behind me, and I can see that it's a Ford from the Galaxy camera, and I can't see what it is from the phone because the phone has much prettier and shallower bokeh and depth of field. And you would think that the camera with this big fun lens on it would arrive at better image quality. But even when I'm just focused on my face, the phone is clearer, sharper, better contrast, slightly more accurate skin tones, but both are kind of wrong in opposite directions. And the more you play with phone versus camera and you really set these images head to head, that a 2-year-old phone is just demolishing the older point and shoot camera until you get to a situation where you have to use the full 20x zoom. That's where you're crop zooming so far on the phone that it turns into a splotchy impressionistic painting. The camera isn't sharp, but it's more realistic. It is an optical zoom. It's just really, really blurry. The phone is literally trying to make up information. But at the opposite end of the spectrum, the phone has an ultra wide camera where the camera has a lens that starts at the focal range of the main sensor on the phone. So there's really no win. And when you shoot raw from the phone, it looks so much better than the camera doing a JPEG. Like the raw image with no processing looks like a photo more than the point and shoot camera looks from the Samsung. So if you'd like to see all of that, hold on, let me scroll all the way back up to the top of the article here. Doop doop doo. Were point and shoot cameras as good as we remember them? On patreon.com/somegadgetguy. And in fact, I actually used part of this article in one of the updated chapters for my book, Take Better Photos, Smartphone Photography for Noobs, available on Amazon Kindle and now available in the Kobo bookstore. Double trouble. And part of this test and part of this conversation is also available there too. I understand the nostalgia that we have for old point and shoots with real big lenses on them. Phones are doing better. The better sensor matters a lot. Going to a bigger sensor gives us a lot more optical advantage than we remember from these point and shoot cameras. It's pretty great. From BW1, I wonder if they do this not just for cost, but also for those creators that complain their social media apps don't work as well as the iPhone native. Very stupid to me to even care. Why on earth would you use the social media apps to take actual pictures or video and get terrible photos and videos compared to the native camera apps? I've never understood that. Like every year, Google comes out and says, we've got a new partnership with Instagram, and now Instagram works better on Android. But then the next year, they'll say that again. And it still looks like garbage to me. And especially when you compare that to a Blackmagic camera, open camera, if you want a free open source camera app, great results from Open Camera, awesome results from Motion Cam Pro. There's no reason, and I'm not even saying make it for every single phone. I don't think Motion Cam supports Techno and Infinix. I think there's limited support for Motorola for the full scope of like DCG support and stuff like that. Make it Google, Apple, Samsung, but make your app, your social media app, at least function to the point where the images are comparable to the built-in camera app. There's nothing stopping you. We've seen third-party camera app developers do that really well. But I think it's just another one of those things where it's an excuse to say iPhones have the best cameras. And it's really just the cultural, the knowledge. Everybody knows the truthiness that iPhones take the best pictures. Anything that kind of confronts that idea is met with skepticism. And a lot of people will see, and if I'm in the Instagram app and I take a photo, it's the same on my iPhone. And if I am in the Instagram app on this Pixel, this so-called Pixel, the photo looks so much garbage. And instead of actually confronting that that's an app development issue and not any problem with the hardware, it just feeds the narrative that's already been promoted by Apple's marketing department that this was shot on iPhone. That's how you know iPhones have the bestest cameras. And that's marketing. But who's out there marketing? Who's out there confronting that marketing? Samsung used to, and they used to actually offer things that were practical benefits, that were significant, noticeable improvements over the iPhone. And over the last 6 years, they've scaled that way back. And in any way that they could cut costs, cut corners, and make their product more like the iPhone in the worst ways, Samsung has done that. That's why I continue to not be impressed, and I continue to refuse to spend copious amounts of time reviewing a product that hasn't changed significantly over the last 5 years and has been marching towards all the things that I don't like about the iPhone. Well, they used to make fun of all that stuff. So Ishmael, I'm sorry. I know I got a little snarky there and I got a little cheeky. He says, that's so interesting. I guess my memory saves the sweet moments. And I just want us to kind of stay on the pulse. Like, I pick up a Vivo and I still feel like, even in tech enthusiast land, there's this little disconnect where people say, like, well, aren't all phone cameras, haven't they basically gotten to the same point? Aren't they all kind of the same? And no, there are very significant differences between a Vivo, an Oppo, and a Xiaomi. If you're spending over $1,500 on a phone camera, wouldn't you want to know, out to the limits of that camera performance, this is where this phone is going to do better. This is where this phone is going to fail you. I love my Vivo X300 Ultra. There are certainly areas where the Oppo Find X9 Ultra slaps the crap out of it. Once you get to the upper limits of what this hardware can do, why do we care what the most average consumer basic point and shoot use of this phone is? That's a $300 phone experience. To satisfy the basic regular degulars, you shouldn't be spending more than $400. That's what that camera experience is now. Takes a photo of your lunch, takes an awkward portrait orientation photo of someone's outfit, upload it to Instagram. No one's going to notice the difference. But if I want to know what's really going to maximize the macro level performance of some pretty flower shots to something that I could print on like a wall-sized canvas print, maybe it's not the Vivo. Maybe it is the Oppo. If I'm really looking at maximizing how the video quality can be augmented by an app like Motion Cam Pro, maybe it's not the Oppo. Maybe it is the Vivo. Like, we're talking about using a ultra professional grade level piece of equipment. It's $2,000 phone. Why would you use that like a $400 phone? You should never buy that phone. It's going to do nothing for you, in the same way that I know if I take one of my aunties and I give her a Sony Cinema camera, her videos aren't going to magically be way better. They're probably going to be way worse, because she's not using the right tool for a little scrappy point and shoot video. She doesn't know how to operate a cinema grade camera. Well, the same thing happens with phones and phone camera sensors too. And if you understand what's optically happening before the phone camera starts augmenting with AI and post-processing and stuff, you can get so much more out of what these devices can do. So Ishmael, again, I actually really appreciated that comment, because it was another fun plug for an article on my Patreon. But I want us to know there are reasons why. And a lot of this is math. So if I hold up a 1/2.3 inch type sensor on this Samsung Galaxy camera, and then I hold up a phone, I should be able to predict, will photos look better deep into the zoom range from this 1/2.3 inch type sensor, or will photos look better from this 1/1.4 inch type sensor? Once you know what those numbers mean, you should have some expectation. And then we can say, did the device satisfy my expectation? And if it does, we know we're on the right path. And we know that there's information there that's not being communicated to consumers. And you got a bunch of chuckleheads going, but aren't all cameras basically the same now, guys? Aren't all smartphones like kind of the same? And there's no nuance and there's no differentiation. And because they're all basically trying to convince us that you should spend $1,500 on something that can scroll your TikToks. And we can tell our family and friends, boy, howdy, don't do that. From BW1, what's funny is if you talk to iPhone users, a lot of them will tell you their photos aren't that great, especially after the iPhone 12 series. Plenty of times they ask the Galaxy user to take the pic. I've noticed that a lot at my daughter's school, but I didn't know how representative that was outside. My daughter's school had this really beautiful split between Samsung, Google, and Apple users. It wasn't like overwhelmingly iPhone with a couple standout Samsung users. It was like you saw a lot of pixels and you saw a lot of non-pro pixels, which I just thought was really cool. Like people like went to a carrier store, probably could have gotten a better deal on a pro, but said, you know, this is the right phone for my needs. So I feel like the experience of buying a non-pro pixel is the right price for a lot of folks. So it is kind of interesting seeing that kind of shift over, but I'm still the one where you look at the back of that Vivo and you know something different is happening there. And I'll see parents just put their phones down. At the end of the event, hey, can you send me some of those photos? And thankfully now, if they understand how their AirDrop settings work, I can send them those photos. And I get to make a snarky comment about the EU forcing Apple to use open standards. Aren't you so glad that Apple finally had to cave to the EU so I can send you this photo of my kid? You're going to listen to me lecture you about owning an iPhone to get the photo that I took of this event. So it's pretty great. It's so fun. Let me get this out of the way here. So, folks, this was a blast. I'm still going to link these 4 articles. I'm just going to read them off here real quick. I love the Pajama Podcast because we never got to any of this. Times of India talking about an AI data center in California that promised not to use Colorado River water. Now it needs 260 million gallons a year of Colorado River water. So they lied. Google just had its first negative cash flow quarter due to massive AI spending. U.S. judge preliminarily approves $1.5 billion Anthropic copyright settlement for stealing literature from human authors to train their AI models. And an article from Wired, the Army is burning through its AI tokens. So the Army set up these like leaderboards for who was using the most AI. And now they're trying to, the Department of Defense is trying to walk away from that and trying to push people to use less tokens because they're basically just setting their budgets on fire because AI was the cheapest it was ever going to be last year. And now, with Google saying their capex and their spending is going to be so high on AI data centers that they were cash flow negative for a fiscal quarter for basically the first time ever, even though they made tons of money, tons of revenue on their search business and their advertising and their marketing business. That's real bad. No one rational is looking at these AI spends going, yes, there's a viable business model here, but the market has to be inflated by these terrible business practices. So all of those articles are still going to be linked in the show notes for this week's episode, along with, the video replay, the audio replay, so you can catch this for people who are on the replay crew. But folks, I just really want to thank you all for jumping in on a very casual, off the cuff. I had so much fun talking headphones. Audio is always going to be my first love, my first passion. And you all want to nerd out on high quality audio to treat your ears. We are in a golden age of audio right now. From $20 earbuds to $2,000 mixing headphones and every $3 price tier of a spectrum in between. there's so much happening in the accessories and audio and video market right now. And I said this during my X Reel, the cinema glasses, my XBX XBX A01 review. But because times are tough, I can't do the computer rebuild that I wanted to do the beginning of this year. I was stupid and I waited out, and I was hoping prices would kind of come back in line, and I got burned for it. So I'm still on my aged Threadripper. I'm doing okay. I'm still getting my work done, but I was planning a rebuild, and that's not going to happen. I think a lot of people are in the same boat. It is tough to justify the costs of a new game console, or maybe even a new phone, a new laptop, or to rebuild their precious high-end desktop. We're all kind of stuck. But that doesn't mean we can't use this time right now to maybe dabble and play with experiences that we wouldn't have had otherwise. Maybe now's the right time to splurge a little on like a little Bluetooth dongle DAC and drive a $20 pair of earbuds a little bit better. That experience could really be worth that price. That'll hold you over until you can do the more major rebuild. Maybe now's the right time to take an old phone, take a whole bunch of your favorite movies and TV shows, put them on the phone with VLC, plug in some glasses, and use that as a portable multimedia experience. And it works so well. And it's so much fun to watch this massive movie theater projection, like in the comfort of your bedroom while you're lying in bed, or on an airplane instead of looking at this tiny little screen in the seat ahead of you. We can still find some new fun experiences. And I hope people will take that time to go exploring with that kind of stuff today, even if the main stuff is pretty rough. BW1 apparently also in the same boat, but got lucky, was just able to finish off his build because he had some parts already. Man, I'm getting scorched on that RAM. I just cannot bring myself to pull the trigger on RAM that expensive. So, folks, thank you so much for watching, for tuning in. Thank you so much for people who are sharing videos and podcasts on their social media, who are reviewing podcasts on their favorite podcasting services, who maybe go to Kobo or Amazon and check out my newly updated photography book that talks about the science and technology behind mobile sensors and optics and crop factors and equivalents. All of that stuff really does contribute to helping us keep the lights on here, to produce new content, to have these fun experiences with you. And I'm glad that y'all are sharing this kind of stuff, that you're along for the ride and contributing to these conversations. So I'll catch you all next week for a proper structured format for the SGGQA podcast. Thanks so much. I want you all to continue taking care of yourselves and that mental health, so you can keep being awesome tech neighbors to all the people around you who need that help and don't even realize how much they need that help. Catch you all here next week for another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. Be safe. Take care.